Every once in a while, you can catch a little bit of the conversation as he makes the walk down. Britt, I went to that.
Yeah, so shut up.
Over some of the anchors covering the State of the Union. He was in a good mood, but a serious mood about Ukraine. The point I was making was,
every once in a while, you can hear what the president says during the State of the Union. So we're just going to talk over that.
Mask that just was announced Sunday.
Hi, Jessica. Hi, Allison. We're watching the Fox News feed right now. This is a public feed. This is the pool feed. Everyone's watching the same feed.
The science has led us to this moment where the State of the Union is maskless.
Well, I'm not sure that the science changed very much
Well,
over the last 72 or 96 hours, has it?
Science doesn't change. Science is the study of the situation. The situation has changed. Science doesn't change.
In a wheelchair who...
Science is a method. The scientific method. It's how you look at things and prove them. And you come up with the best solutions. Here's the President of the United States, by the way, Mr. Joey Biden.
Major national united actions to be largely over.
Just watching President Biden and thinking about all the times, Britt, you talked about all of the State of the Union addresses that you have been to and covered. He is right up there, and he just handed a speech over to Nancy Pelosi, which reminds me of a moment when a speech got ripped up in recent coverage that we were watching. But now it's Joe Biden's turn to give the State of the Union address after a lifetime of service.
I have the high privilege and distinct honor of presenting to you the President of the United States.
So he's expected to address Ukraine right off the bat and Russia, etc. He'll be stern. At some point, he'll fumble over one word like I just did, and Hannity will say that he's insane and needs to be taken down. Here we go.
Thank you all very much. Thank you, General. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please. Thank you so much. Madam Speaker, Madam Vice President, our First Lady and Second Gentleman, members of Congress and the Cabinet, Justice of the Supreme Court, my fellow Americans. Last year, COVID-19 kept us apart. This year, we're finally together again. Tonight, we meet as Democrats, Republicans, Independents, but most importantly, as Americans, with the duty to one another, to America, to the American people, to the Constitution.
Hi, Cujo.
And an unwavering resolve that freedom will always triumph over tyranny. Thank you.
Wow, even the Republicans are standing up.
6 days ago, Russia's Vladimir Putin sought to shake the very foundations of the free world, thinking he could make it bend to his menacing ways. But he badly miscalculated.
Can I just point out that this is the first State of the Union in the history of the United States that it went away. We've lost the coverage. Thanks a lot, Putin. Well, they've done it. They've attacked the coverage. Come on back. There. For the first time in the history of the United States, this is the very first State of the Union where the president literally is a good man with two good women behind him. We've never seen that before during a State of the Union. We have the Vice President, Speaker of the House, two females up on the dais.
Calculated. He thought he could roll into Ukraine and the world would roll over. Instead, he met with a wall of strength he never anticipated or imagined. He met the Ukrainian people. And President Zelensky, to every Ukrainian, their fearlessness, their courage, their determination literally inspires the world. Groups of citizens blocking tanks with their bodies, everyone from students to retirees to teachers, turned soldiers defending their homeland. And in this struggle, President Zelensky said in his speech to the European Parliament, "Light will win over darkness." The Ukrainian ambassador to the United States is here tonight, sitting with the First Lady. Let each of us, if you're able to stand and send an unmistakable signal to the world of Ukraine. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. She's bright, she's strong, and she's resolved. Yes, we, the United States of America, stand with the Ukrainian people. Throughout our history, we've learned this lesson. When dictators do not pay a price for their aggression, they cause more chaos. They keep moving, and the cost, the threats to America and America to the world keeps rising. That's why the NATO alliance was created, to secure peace and stability in Europe after World War II. The United States is a member, along with 29 other nations. It matters. American diplomacy matters. American resolve matters. Putin's latest attack on Ukraine was premeditated and totally unprovoked. He rejected repeated efforts at diplomacy. He thought the West and NATO wouldn't respond. He thought he could divide us at home, in this chamber, in this nation. He thought he could divide us in Europe as well. But Putin was wrong. We are ready. We are united, and that's what we did. We stayed united. We prepared extensively and carefully. We spent months building coalitions of other freedom-loving nations in Europe and the Americas, from America to the Asian and African continents, to confront Putin. Like many of you, I spent countless hours unifying our European allies. We shared with the world in advance what we knew Putin was planning and precisely how he would try to falsify and justify his aggression. We countered Russia's lies with the truth. And now that he's acted, the free world is holding him accountable, along with 27 members of the European Union, including France, Germany, Italy, as well as countries like the United Kingdom, Canada, Japan, Korea, Australia, New Zealand, and many others. Even Switzerland are inflicting pain on Russia and supporting the people of Ukraine. Putin is now isolated from the world more than he has ever been. Together, along with our allies, we are right now enforcing powerful economic sanctions. We're cutting off Russia's largest banks in the international financial system, preventing Russia's central bank from defending the Russian ruble, making Putin's $630 billion war fund worthless. We're choking Russia's access. To technology that will sap its economic strength and weaken its military for years to come. Tonight, I say to the Russian oligarchs and the corrupt leaders who built billions of dollars off this violent regime, no more. The United States, I mean it. The United States Department of Justice is assembling a dedicated task force to go after the crimes of the Russian oligarchs. We're joining with European allies to find and seize their yachts, their luxury apartments, their private jets. We're coming for your ill-begotten gains. And tonight, I'm announcing that we will join our allies in closing off American airspace to all Russian flights, further isolating Russia and adding additional squeeze on their economy. He has no idea what's coming. The ruble has already lost 30% of its value. The Russian stock market has lost 40% of its value, and trading remains suspended. The Russian economy is reeling, and Putin alone is the one to blame. Together with our allies, we're providing support to the Ukrainians in their fight for freedom. Military assistance, economic assistance, humanitarian assistance. We're giving more than $1 billion of direct assistance to Ukraine, and will continue to aid the Ukrainian people as they defend their country and help ease their suffering. But let me be clear, our forces are not engaged and will not engage in the conflict with Russian forces in Ukraine. Our forces are not going to Europe to fight Ukraine, but to defend our NATO allies in the event that Putin decides to keep moving west. For that purpose, we have mobilized American ground forces, air squadrons, ship deployments to protect NATO countries, including Poland, Romania, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. And as I've made crystal clear, the United States and our allies will defend every inch of territory that is NATO territory with the full force of our collective power. Every single inch.
Unless we put Tucker Carlson in charge, because he just doesn't get that.
And we're clear-eyed. The Ukrainians are fighting back with pure courage. But the next few days, weeks, and months will be hard on them. Putin has unleashed violence and chaos, but while he may make gains on the battlefield, he'll pay a continuing high price over the long run. And a pound of Ukrainian people, the proud, proud people, pound for pound, ready to fight with every inch of energy they have. They've known 30 years of independence, have repeatedly shown that they will not tolerate anyone who tries to take their country backwards. To all Americans, I'll be honest with you, as I always promised I would be. A Russian dictator invading a foreign country has cost around the world. And I'm taking robust action to make sure the pain of our sanctions is targeted at the Russian economy, and that we use every tool at our disposal to protect American businesses and consumers. Tonight, I can announce the United States has worked with 30 other countries to release 60 million barrels of oil from reserves around the world. America will lead that effort, releasing 30 million barrels of our own strategic petroleum reserve.
None of the Republicans clapped for that.
Necessary, united with our allies. These steps will help blunt gas prices here at home, but I know news about what's happening can seem alarming to all Americans. But I want you to know, we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. When the history of this era is written, Putin's war in Ukraine will have left Russia weaker and the rest of the world stronger. Well, while it shouldn't have taken...
None of the Republicans are standing when he's saying Putin will be weaker.
Well, it shouldn't have taken something so terrible for people around the world.
Here's the turtle, just having a seat.
To see what's at stake. Now everyone sees it clearly. We see the unity among leaders of nations, a more unified Europe, a more unified West. We see unity among the people who are gathering in cities and large crowds around the world, even in Russia, to demonstrate their support for the people of Ukraine. In the battle between democracy and autocracies, democracies are rising to the moment, and the world is clearly choosing the side of peace and security. This is the real test, and it's going to take time. So let us continue to draw inspiration from the iron will of the Ukrainian people. To our fellow Ukrainian Americans who forged the deep bond that connects our two nations, we stand with you. We stand with you. Putin may circle Kyiv with tanks, but he'll never gain the hearts and souls of the Iranian people. He'll never...
Ukrainian.
He'll never...
Kamala's face. She's saying it herself, too. He said Iranian. Oh, boy. Here we go. Just watch Kamala's face when he says Iranian instead of Ukrainian.
Who forged the deep bond that connects our two nations. We stand with you. We stand with you. Putin may circle Kyiv with tanks, but he'll never gain the hearts and souls of the Iranian people. He'll never extinguish their love of freedom, and he will never weaken the resolve of the free world.
No, we gotta give Hannity something.
We meet tonight in an America that has lived through two of the hardest years this nation has ever faced. The pandemic has been punishing, and so many families are living paycheck to paycheck, struggling to keep up with the rising cost of food, gas, housing, and so much more. I understand, like many of you did. My dad had to leave his home in Scranton, Pennsylvania to find work. So like many of you, I grew up in a family when the price of food went up, it was felt throughout the family. It had an impact. That's when one of the first things I did as president was fight to pass the American Rescue Plan. Because people were hurting, we needed to act, and we did. Few pieces of legislation have done more at a critical moment in our history to lift us out of a crisis. It fueled our efforts to vaccinate the nation and combat COVID-19, delivered immediate economic relief to tens of millions of Americans. It helped put food on the table. Remember those long lines of cars waiting for hours just to get a box of food put in their trunk? It cut the cost of health care insurance. And as my dad used to say, it gave the people just a little bit of breathing room. Unlike the $2 trillion tax cut passed in the previous administration that benefited the top 1% of Americans, the American Rescue Plan helped working people and left no one behind.
That's actually true. It did benefit the top 1%. They got an average tax break of $33,000. Whereas a teacher making $45K a year, her tax break was 76 cents a week.
Folks, and it worked. It worked.
None of the Republicans clapping for that one.
It worked. We created jobs, lots of jobs. In fact, our economy created over 6.5 million new jobs just last year. More jobs in 1 year than ever before in the history of the United States of America. The economy grew at a rate of 5.7 last year, the strongest growth rate in 40 years. And the first step in bringing fundamental change to our economy that hasn't worked for working people in this nation for too long. For the past 40 years, we were told that tax break for those at the top and benefits would trickle down and everyone would benefit. But that trickle-down theory led to a weaker economic growth, lower wages, bigger deficits, and a widening gap between the top and everyone else in nearly a century. Look, Vice President Harris and I ran for office, and I realize we have fundamental disagreements on this, but ran for office with a new economic vision for America. Invest in America, educate Americans, grow the workforce, build the economy from the bottom up and the middle out, not from the top down, because we know when the middle class grows.
According to lip readers on the internets, Kevin McCarthy leaned over to Steve Scalise at 9:17 Eastern Standard Time and said he's off his rocker. I can't verify that.
When the middle class grows, the poor have a way up and the wealthy do very well. America used to have the best roads, bridges, and airports on earth. And now our infrastructure is ranked 13th in the world. We won't be able to compete for the jobs of the 21st century if we don't fix it. That's why it was so important to pass the bipartisan infrastructure law. And I thank my Republican friends who joined to invest and rebuild America, the single biggest investment in history. It was a bipartisan effort, and I want to thank the members of both parties who worked to make it happen. We're done talking about infrastructure weeks. We're now talking about an infrastructure decade. And look, it's going to transform America, to put us on a path to win the economic competition of the 21st century that we face with the rest of the world, particularly China. I've told Xi Jinping it's never been a good bet to bet against the American people. We'll create good jobs for millions of Americans, modernizing roads, airports, ports, waterways, all across America. And we'll do it to withstand the devastating effects of climate change and promote environmental justice. We'll build a national network of 500,000 electric vehicle charging stations. Begin to replace the poisonous lead pipes so every child, every American has clean water to drink at home and at school. We're going to provide
None of the Republicans want clean drinking water at school, I guess.
affordable, high-speed internet for every American, rural, suburban, urban, and tribal communities. 4,000 projects have already been announced. Many of you have announced them in your districts. And tonight, I'm announcing that this year, we will start fixing over 65,000 miles of highway and 1,500 bridges in disrepair. And folks, when we use taxpayers' dollars to rebuild America, we're going to do it by buying America. Buy American products. Support American jobs. The federal government spends about $600 billion a year to keep this country safe and secure. There's been a law on the books for almost a century to make sure taxpayers' dollars support American jobs and businesses. Every administration, Democrat and Republican, says they'll do it, but we're actually doing it. We'll buy America to make sure everything from the deck of an aircraft carrier to the steel on highway guardrails is made in America from beginning to end. All of it. All of it.
After this, we're going to watch MTG's Marjorie Taylor Greene's response.
To compete for the jobs of the future, we also need a level playing field with China and other competitors. That's why it's so important to pass the Bipartisan Innovation Act sitting in Congress that will make record investments in emerging technologies and American manufacturing. We used to invest almost 2% of our GDP in research and development. We don't now. China is. Let me give you one example why it's so important to pass.
Hold on to that example, and we'll get to that in a second. I just want you to know, right now, the right-wing channels on YouTube are playing, I shit you not, are playing President Trump's State of the Union from 2020, as if he's still the president. That's the reality in which they live.
If you travel 20 miles east of Columbus, Ohio, you'll find 1,000 empty acres of land. It won't look like much, but if you stop and look closely, you'll see a field of dreams, the ground on which America's future will be built. That's where Intel, the American company that helped build Silicon Valley, is going to build a $20 billion semiconductor megasite, up to 8 state-of-the-art factories in one place, 10,000 new jobs. And in those factories, the average job about $135 $135,000 a year. Some of the most sophisticated manufacturing in the world to make computer chips the size of a fingertip, the power of the world in everyday lives, from smartphones, technology, the internet, technology is yet to be invented. But that's just the beginning. Intel CEO Pat Gelsinger, who is here tonight, I don't know where Pat is. Pat, there you go. Pat, stand up. Pat came to see me and he told me they're ready to increase their investment from $20 billion to $100 billion. That would be the biggest investment in manufacturing in American history. And all they're waiting for is for you to pass this bill. So let's not wait any longer. Send it to my desk, I'll sign it, and we'll really take off in a big way. And folks, Intel is not alone. There's something happening in America. Just look around and you'll see an amazing story. The rebirth of pride that comes from stamping products made in America. The revitalization of American manufacturing. Companies are choosing to build new factories here when just a few years ago they would have gone overseas. That's what's happening. Ford is investing $11 billion in electric vehicles, creating 11,000 jobs across the country. GM is making the largest investment in its history, $7 billion to build electric vehicles, creating 4,000 jobs in Michigan. All told, 369,000 new manufacturing jobs were created in America last year alone. Folks,
that kid's all, I made Legos.
Powered by people I've met like JoJo Burgess from generations of union steelworkers in Pittsburgh, who's here with us tonight. Where are you, JoJo? There you go.
JoJo?
Thanks, buddy.
She just brought me pizza.
As Ohio Senator Sherrod Brown says,
I love that kid.
It's time to bury the label Rust Belt. It's time to see the what used to be called Rust Belt become the home of a significant resurgence of manufacturing. And with all the bright spots in our economy,
I want to know what state that kid represents.
Record job
There's no minimum age to be a senator, by the way.
growth, higher wages. Too many families are struggling to keep up with their bills. Inflation is robbing them of gains they thought otherwise they would be able to feel. I get it. That's why my top priority is getting prices under control. Look, our economy roared back faster than almost anyone predicted. But the pandemic meant that businesses had a hard time hiring enough people because of the pandemic to keep up production in their factories. So you didn't have people making those beams that went into buildings because they were out. The factory was closed. The panic also disrupted the global supply chain. Factories close. When that happens, it takes longer to make goods and get them to the warehouses, to the stores, and prices go up. Look at cars last year. 1/3 of all the inflation was because of automobile sales. There weren't enough semiconductors to make all the cars that people wanted to buy. And guess what? Prices of automobiles went way up, especially used vehicles as well. And so we have a choice. One way to fight inflation is to drive down wages and make Americans poorer.
I'm going to drive to Oakland and get myself a car.
I think I have a better idea to fight inflation. Lower your costs, not your wages. Folks, that means make more cars and semiconductors in America, more infrastructure and innovation in America,
I don't know what all the laughter is.
more goods moving faster and cheaper in America, more jobs where you can earn a good living in America. Instead of relying on foreign supply chains, let's make it in America. Look, Economist.
This is a historical reference, and I kid you not. When Obama and Biden first got into office, and Biden was put in charge of resurrecting the economy, in the Recovery Act, that platform was the U.S. government needs to buy only products made in America. Okay? So the part of that Recovery Act, which was massively successful, brought us out of the recession in 2008. The 2009 Recovery Act gave a whole bunch of money to different districts, states, etc., as long as they purchased goods made in America. The Republicans hated it. They were against it. Now, they've buried all of that. They pretend it doesn't exist. But they were against Made in America because they said, no. If we make things in America, then foreign countries are going to retaliate and not buy American goods because we're not buying goods from them, even though we're not making things in America. They were against it just because Obama was for it. But this was Biden's plan, by the way, and it worked. The problem with lowering wages is that the costs don't go down. The prices continue to get passed on to the consumer because demand is high, and the corporations keep making record profits.
Economists call this increasing the productive capacity of our economy. I call it building a better America. My plan to fight inflation will lower your costs and lower the deficit. 17 Nobel laureates in economics said my plan will ease long-term inflationary pressures. Top business leaders, and I believe most Americans support the plan. And here's the plan. First, cut the cost of prescription drugs.
No. Trump did that. In January, all of the Trump drug cost effects went into, and then we're all paying like $1, right? Last January, 2020, remember? Sorry, 2021.
We pay more for the same drug produced by the same company in America than any other country in the world.
But Trump fixed it with his most favored nation. Remember? And he would explain it. In Germany, they pay 10 cents for the same pill. We're paying $2.50, $3. I pay as high as $5, $6, maybe $7.
Just look at insulin. 1 in 10 Americans has diabetes. In Virginia, I met a 13-year-old boy, the handsome young man standing up there, Joshua Davis.
There he is. The senator from Virginia, would you please rise?
He and his dad both have type 1 diabetes, which means they need insulin every single day. Insulin costs about $10 a vial to make. That's what it costs the pharmaceutical company. But drug companies charge families like Joshua and his dad up to 30 times that amount. I spoke with Joshua's mom. Imagine what it's like to look at your child who needs insulin to stay healthy and have no idea how in God's name you're going to be able to pay for it. What it does to your family, but what it does to your dignity, your ability to look your child in the eye, to be the parent you expect yourself to be. I really mean to think about that. That's what I think about. You know, yesterday, Joshua's here tonight, but yesterday was his birthday. Happy birthday, buddy, by the way. For Joshua,
I love him.
and 200,000 other young people with type 1 diabetes, let's cap the cost of insulin at $35 a month. So everyone can afford it.
But Trump did that, remember? He told us that he did that.
And drug companies will do very, very well, their profit margin. While we're at it, I know we have great disagreements on this floor with this. Let's let Medicare negotiate the price of prescription drugs.
Yes, 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 and yes.
They already set the price for VA drugs. Look, the American
Susan Collins finds that young man very, very concerning.
Rescue Plan is helping millions of families with Affordable Care Act plans to save them $2,400 a year on their health premiums. Let's close the coverage gap and make these savings permanent. And second, let's cut energy costs for families, an average of $500 a year by combating climate change. Let's provide an investment tax credits to weatherize your home and your business, to be energy efficient and get a tax credit for it. Double America's clean energy production in solar, wind, and so much more.
Hydrogen.
Lower the price of electric vehicles,
Oh, she's cute. Who's that?
saving another $80 a month that you're not
I hope she's a Republican, because if she's not, they're going to go nuts over her.
going to have to pay at the pump. Folks, the third thing we can do to change the standard of living for hardworking folks is cut the cost of child care. Cut the cost of
Just stay standing up, ladies. It's
child care.
gonna be a long night.
Folks, if you live in a major city in America, you pay up to $14,000 a year for child care per child.
Hey, Goldie.
I was a single dad for 5 years, raising 2 kids. I had a lot of help, though. I had a mom, a dad, a brother, and a sister that really helped. But middle class and working folks shouldn't have to pay more than 7% of their income to care for the young children. My plan would cut the cost of child care in half for most families and help parents, including millions of women who left the workforce during the pandemic because they couldn't afford child care, to be able to get back to work, generating economic growth. But my plan doesn't stop there. It also includes home and long-term care, more affordable housing,
Guys, I know it's AOC. I know.
pre-K for 3- and 4-year-olds. All these will lower costs to families. And under my plan, nobody, let me say this again, nobody earning less than $400,000 a year will pay an additional penny in new taxes. Not a single penny. I may be wrong, but my guess is if we took a secret ballot in this floor, that we'd all agree that the present tax system ain't fair. We have to fix it. I'm not looking to punish anybody. But let's make corporations and wealthy Americans start paying their fair share. Look, last year,
They focus on Warren. Appropriate.
and like Chris Coons and Tom Carper and my distinguished Congresswoman, we come from the land of corporate America. There are more corporations incorporated in America than every other state in America combined.
Incorporated in Delaware.
And I still won 36 years in a row. The point is, even they understand they should pay just a fair share. Last year, 55 of the Fortune 500 companies earned $40 billion in profit and paid zero in federal taxes. Now look, it's not fair. That's why I proposed a 15% minimum tax rate for corporations. We've got...
Wait, how much?
And that's why zero in federal taxes. Now look, it's not fair. That's why I proposed a 15% minimum tax
15.
rate for corporations. We've got...
There's no one standing for that one because they all take money from corporations.
And that's why...
Nancy's like, yeah. Nancy takes a lot of corporate money.
in the G7 and other meetings overseas, we're able to put together, I was able to be somewhat helpful.
Nancy just takes like one piece of paper from the speech, just tears like that much off of it. We're not hurting the corporations, Joe.
130 countries agree on a global minimum tax rate. So companies can't get out of paying their taxes at home by shipping jobs and factories overseas.
That's a good
It'll
idea.
raise billions of dollars. That's why I propose closing loopholes for the very wealthy who pay a lower tax rate than a teacher and a firefighter. So that's my plan, but we'll go more detail later. We will grow the economy, lower the cost of families. So what are we waiting for? Let's get this done. We all know we've got to make changes. Folks, and while you're at it, confirm my nominees for the Federal Reserve, which plays a critical role in fighting inflation. My plan will not only lower costs and give families a fair shot, it will lower the deficit. The previous administration not only ballooned the deficit with those tax cuts for the very wealthy and corporations.
True.
It undermined the watchdogs, the job of those to keep pandemic relief funds being wasted. Remember we had those debates about whether or not those watchdogs should be able to see every day how much money was being spent, where was it going to the right place? But in my administration, the watchdogs are back. And we're going to go after the criminals who stole billions of relief money meant for small business and millions of Americans. And tonight I'm announcing that the Justice Department will soon name a chief prosecutor for pandemic fraud. And look,
and charge Trump with voter manipulation. No.
I think we all agree. Thank you. By the end of this year, the deficit will be down to less than half of what it was before I took office. The only president ever to cut the deficit by more than $1 trillion in a single year. Lowering your cost also meant demanding more competition. I'm a capitalist, but capitalism without competition is not capitalism. Capitalism without competition is exploitation. It drives up profits. And corporations have to compete. Their profits go up and your prices go up when they don't have to compete. Small businesses and family farmers and ranchers, I need not tell some of my Republican friends from those states. Guess what? You got 4 basic meat packing facilities. That's it.
Is McConnell alive?
You play with them or you don't get to play at all. And you pay a hell of a lot more. A hell of a lot more because there's only 4. See what's happening with ocean carriers and moving goods in and out of America. During the pandemic, about half a dozen or less foreign-owned companies raised prices by as much as 1,000% and made record profits. Tonight, I'm announcing a crackdown on those companies overcharging American businesses and consumers. And folks,
that could be interesting.
and as Wall Street firms take over more nursing homes, quality in those homes has gone down and costs have gone up. That ends on my watch. Medicare is going to set higher standards for nursing homes and make sure your loved ones get the care they deserve and that they inspect and they will look at closely. We're also going to cut costs to keep the economy going strong and giving workers a fair shot, provide more training and apprenticeships, hire them based on skills, not just their degrees. Let's pass the Paycheck Fairness Act and paid leave. Raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour and extend the child tax credit so no one has to raise a family in poverty. Let's increase Pell Grants, increase our historic support for HBCUs, and invest in what Jill, our First Lady who teaches full-time, calls America's best-kept secret, community colleges. Look, let's pass the PRO Act. When a majority of workers want to form a union, they shouldn't be able to be stopped. When we invest in our workers and we build an economy from the bottom up and the middle out together, we can do something we haven't done in a long time. Build a better America. For more than 2 years, COVID has impacted every decision in our lives and the life of this nation. And I know you're tired, frustrated, and exhausted. That doesn't even count the close to 1 million people who sit at a dining room table or a kitchen table and look at an empty chair because they lost somebody. But I also know this, because of the progress we've made, because of your resilience, and the tools that we have been provided by this Congress, tonight I can say we're moving forward safely back to more normal routines. We've reached a new moment in the fight against COVID-19, where severe cases are down to a level not seen since July of last year. Just a few days ago, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention issued a new mask guidelines. Under the new guidelines, most Americans and most of the country can now go mask-free. And based on projections, more of the country will reach a point across that.
They focus on Marjorie Taylor Greene. Let's see if she applauds here. By the way, I know she plays a troll on the internet, but
point across the next couple of weeks. And thanks to the progress we've made in the past year, COVID-19 no longer need control our lives. I know some are talking about living with COVID-19, but tonight I say that we never will just accept living with COVID-19. We'll continue to combat the virus as we do other diseases. And because this virus mutates and spreads, we have to stay on guard. And here are 4 common sense steps as we move forward safely, in my view. First, stay protected with vaccines and treatments. We know how incredibly effective vaccines are. If you're vaccinated and boosted, you have the highest degree of protection. And we'll never give up on vaccinating more Americans. Now, I know parents with kids under 5 are eager to see their vaccines authorized for their children. Scientists are working hard to get that done, and we'll be ready with plenty of vaccines if and when they do. We're all ready. We are also ready with antiviral treatments. If you get COVID-19, the Pfizer pill reduces your chances of ending up in the hospital by 90%. I've ordered more pills than anyone in the world has. Pfizer is working overtime to get us 1 million pills this month and more than double that next month. And now we're launching the Test to Treat initiative. So people can get tested at a pharmacy, and if they prove positive, receive the antiviral pills on the spot at no cost.
wow.
And folks,
Oh my God, something in healthcare that actually makes sense. Who is this man? Not that man. We know who that man is.
if you're immunocompromised or have some other vulnerability, we have treatments and free high-quality masks. We're leaving no one behind or ignoring anyone's needs as we move forward. On testing, we've made hundreds of millions of tests available, and you can order them for free to your doorstep. And we've already ordered free tests. If you already ordered free tests tonight, I'm announcing you can order another group of tests. Go to covidtest.gov starting next week, and you can get more tests. Second, we must prepare for new variants. Over the past, we've gotten much better at detecting new variants. If necessary, we'll be able to develop new vaccines within 100 days instead of maybe months or years. And if Congress provides the funds we need, we'll have...
Just FYI, that website is already up saying starting next week, every home in the U.S. will be able to order an additional set of 4 tests. So that's already accurate. By the way, yesterday, end of February, I went to Walmart while producer JoJo was charging her fancy new electric car, because that's where the charging station is. I walked into Walmart, I showed them my health card, my health insurance, and they gave me 8 tests for free. No charge, no buying them and sending the bill in. I just showed them the card. They gave me 8 Abbott tests, and I was on my way. So this month is a new month. I can get 8 more tests, and you can do so too. If you have health insurance, go to your health insurance website and see where you can go, what pharmacies you can go to.
New stockpiles of tests, masks, pills, ready if needed. I can't promise a new variant won't come, but I can promise you we'll do everything within our power to be ready if it does. Third, we can end the shutdown of schools and businesses. We have the tools we need. It's time for America to get back to work and fill our great downtowns again with people. People working from home can feel safe and begin to return to their offices. We're doing that here in the federal government. The vast majority of federal workers will once again work in person. Our schools are open. Let's keep it that way. Our kids need to be in school.
Just saw a Republican on Twitter today complaining that Biden closed the schools. Trump closed the schools. Biden opened the schools.
With 75% of adult Americans fully vaccinated and hospitalizations down by 77%, most Americans can remove their masks and stay in the classroom and move forward safely. We achieved this because we provided free vaccines, treatments, tests, and masks. Of course, continuing this costs money, so I'll not surprise you. I'll be back to see you all. And I'm going to soon send a request to Congress. The vast majority of Americans have used these tools and may want again. We may need them again, so I expect Congress, and I hope you'll pass that quickly. Fourth, we'll continue vaccinating the world. We've sent 475 million vaccine doses to 112 countries, more than any nation on earth. We won't stop, because you can't build a wall high enough to keep out a vaccine. The vaccine can stop the spread of these diseases.
Virus, keep out a virus, but okay.
You know, we've lost so much in COVID-19. Time with one another. The worst of all, much the loss of life. Let's use this moment to reset. So stop looking at COVID as a partisan dividing line. See it for what it is, a god-awful disease. Let's stop seeing each other as enemies and start seeing each other for who we are, fellow Americans. Look.
What I like about the audience is there are a number of young ladies out there who are wearing blue and yellow, which is a show of solidarity with Ukraine right now, including Joni Ernst, a Republican senator.
We can't change how divided we've been. It was a long time in coming. But we can change how to move forward on COVID-19 and other issues that we must face together. I recently visited New York City Police Department days after the funerals of Officer Wilbur Mora and his partner, Officer Jason Rivera. They were responding to a 9/11 call when a man shot and killed them with a stolen gun. Officer Mora was 27 years old. Officer Rivera was 22 years old. Both Dominican Americans who grew up in the same streets that they later chose to patrol as police officers. I spoke with their families, and I told them that we were forever in debt for their sacrifices and will carry on their mission to restore the trust and safety of every community deserves. Like some of you that have been around for a while, I've worked with you on these issues for a long time. I know what works: investigating crime prevention and community policing, cops who walk the beat, who know the neighborhood, and who can restore trust and safety. Let's not abandon our streets or choose between safety and equal justice. Let's come together and protect our communities, restore trust, and hold law enforcement accountable. That's why the Justice Department has required body cameras, banned chokeholds, and restricted no-knock warrants for its officers. That's why the American Rescue Plan that you all provided $350 billion that cities, states, and counties can use to hire more police, invest in more proven strategies. Proven strategies like community violence interruption, trusted messengers, breaking the cycle of violence and trauma, and giving young people some hope. We should all agree the answer is not to defund the police. It's to fund the police. Fund them. Fund them.
Oh! The Republicans are clapping.
Fund them with resources and training.
And go after everybody who invaded this building on January 6th and injured or killed 141 police officers.
Resources and training they need to protect our communities. I ask Democrats and Republicans alike to pass my budget and keep our neighborhoods safe. And we'll do everything in my power to crack down on gun trafficking, of ghost guns that you can buy online, assemble at home, no serial numbers, can't be traced. I ask Congress to pass proven measures to reduce gun violence, pass universal background checks. Why should anyone on the terrorist list be able to purchase a weapon? Why? Why? And folks, ban assault weapons with high-capacity magazines that hold up to 100 rounds. You think the deer are wearing Kevlar vests? Look, repeal the liability shield. It makes gun manufacturers the only industry in America that can't be sued. The only one.
That is incorrect. You can sue gun manufacturers for certain reasons. They have liability protections. Vaccine makers have some liability protections. So, no, that's not accurate, but it is very difficult.
Imagine had we done that with the tobacco manufacturers. These laws don't infringe on the Second Amendment. They save lives. The most fundamental right in America is the right to vote and have it counted. And look, it's under assault. In state after state, new laws have been passed. Not only to suppress the vote, we've been there before, but to subvert the entire election. We can't let this happen. Tonight I call on the Senate to pass the Freedom to Vote Act, pass the John Lewis Act, Voting Rights Act. And while you're at it, pass the Disclose Act so Americans know who's funding our election. Look, tonight, I like to honor someone who dedicated his life to serve this country. Justice Breyer, an Army veteran, constitutional scholar, retiring Justice of the United States Supreme Court. Justice Breyer, thank you for your service. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We mean it. Get up, stand up and see you. Thank you. And we all know, no matter what your ideology, we all know one of the most serious constitutional responsibility a president has is nominating someone to serve on the United States Supreme Court. As I did 4 days ago, I've nominated the Circuit Court of Appeals, Ketanji Brown Jackson, one of our nation's top legal minds, who will continue in Justice Breyer's legacy of excellence. A former top litigator in private practice, a former federal public defender, from a family of public school educators and police officers. She's a consensus builder. Since she's been nominated, she's received a broad range of support, including the Fraternal Order of Police and former judges supported by Democrats and Republicans. Folks, if we're to advance liberty and justice, we need to secure our border and fix the immigration system.
Whoa.
And as you might guess, I think we can do both. At our border, we've installed new technology like cutting-edge scanners to better detect drug smuggling. We've set up joint patrols with Mexico and Guatemala to catch more human traffickers. We're putting in place dedicated immigration judges in a significant larger number so families fleeing
I think Marjorie Taylor Greene was just screaming, "Build that wall."
persecution and violence can have their cases heard faster, and those who don't legitimately hear can be sent back. We're screening, we're securing commitments and supporting partners in South and Central America to host more refugees and secure their own borders. We can do all this while keeping lit the torch of liberty that has led the generation of immigrants to this land, my forebears and many of yours. Provide a pathway to citizenship for dreamers, those with temporary status, farm workers, essential workers. Revise our laws.
Apparently Lauren Boebert was as well. She just tweeted, "I'll say it louder for the folks in the back. Build the wall."
So businesses have workers they need, and families don't wait decades to reunite. It's not only the right thing to do, it's economically smart thing to do. That's why the immigration reform is supported by everyone from labor unions to religious leaders to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Let's get it done once and for all. Folks, advancing liberty and justice also requires protecting the rights of women. The constitutional right affirmed by Roe v. Wade, standing precedent for half a century, is under attack as never before. If you want to go forward, not backwards, we must protect access to health care, preserve a woman's right to choose, and continue to advance maternal health care for all Americans. And folks, for our LGBTQ plus Americans, let's finally get the Bipartisan Equality Act to my desk. The onslaught of state laws targeting transgender Americans and their families, it's simply wrong. And I said last year, especially to our younger transgender Americans, I'll always have your back as your president so you can be yourself and reach your God-given potential. Folks, as I've just demonstrated, while it often appears we do not agree, and that we do agree on a lot more things than we acknowledge. I signed 80 bipartisan bills into law last year, from preventing government shutdowns, to protecting aged Americans from still too common hate crimes, to reforming military justice, and will soon be strengthening the Violence Against Women Act that I first wrote 3 decades ago. It's important. It's important for us to show the nation we can come together and do big things. So tonight I'm offering a unity agenda for the nation. 4 big things we can do together, in my view. First, beat the opioid epidemic. There's so much we can do. Increase funding for prevention, treatment, harm reduction and recovery. Get rid of outdated rules and stop doctors from prescribing treatments. Stop the flow of illicit drugs by working with state and local law enforcement to go after the traffickers. And if you're suffering from addiction, you should know you're not alone. I believe in recovery, and I celebrate the 23 million Americans in recovery. Second, let's take on mental health, especially among our children whose lives and education have been turned upside down. The American Rescue Plan gave schools money to hire teachers and help students make up for lost learning. I urge every parent to make sure your school does just that. They have the money. We can all play a part. Sign up to be a tutor or a mentor. Children were also struggling before the pandemic: bullying, violence, trauma, and the harms of social media. As Frances Haugen, who is here tonight with us, has shown, we must hold social media platforms accountable for the national experiment they're conducting on our children for profit.
She's the Facebook whistleblower.
Folks, thank you. Thank you for the courage you showed. It's time to strengthen privacy protections, ban targeted advertising to children, demand tech companies stop collecting personal data on our children, and let's get all Americans the mental health services they need. More people can turn for help, and full parity between physical and mental health care if we treat it that way in our insurance. Look, the third piece of that agenda is support our veterans. Veterans are the backbone and the spine of this country. They're the best of us. I've always believed that we have a sacred obligation to equip those we send to war and care for those in their family when they come home. My administration is providing assistance in job training, housing, and now helping lower-income veterans get VA care debt-free. And our troops in Iraq and Afghanistan have faced many dangers, one being stationed at bases breathing in toxic smoke from burn pits. Many of you have been there. I've been in and out of Iraq and Afghanistan over 40 times. These burn pits that incinerate waste, the waste of war, medical and hazardous material, jet fuel, and so much more. And they come home, many of the world's fittest and best trained warriors in the world. Never the same. Headaches, numbness, dizziness. A cancer that would put them in a flag-draped coffin. I know. One of those.
Wow. I think that was MTG or Boebert who just said you put them in the coffins. He mentioned coffins. You put them in there. 13 of them, referring to the people in Afghanistan. I think it was Boebert. It sounded like Boebert. Let's listen again.
Numbness, dizziness. A cancer that would put them in a flag-draped coffin. I know.
You put them in, 13 of them. That's Boebert's voice. And even Graham is surprised.
One of those soldiers was my son, Major Beau Biden. I don't know for sure if the
and somebody else now is talking. That sounded like MTD.
Burn pit that he lived near, that his hooch was near in Iraq and earlier than that in Kosovo, is the cause of his brain cancer, the disease of so many other troops. But I am committed to find out everything we can, committed to military families like Danielle Robinson from Ohio, the widow of Sergeant First Class Heath Robinson. He was born a soldier, Army National Guard, combat medic in Kosovo and Iraq, stationed near Baghdad, just yards from burn pits the size of football fields. Danielle is here with us tonight. They love going to Ohio State football games. And they love building Legos with their daughter. But cancer from prolonged exposure to burn pits ravaged Heath's lungs and body. Danielle says Heath was a fighter to the very end. He didn't know how to stop fighting, and neither did she. Through her pain, she found purpose to demand that we do better. Tonight, Danielle, we are going to do better. The VA is pioneering new ways of linking toxic exposure to disease, already helping more veterans get benefits. And tonight, I'm announcing we're expanding eligibility to veterans suffering from 9 respiratory cancers. I'm also calling on Congress to pass a law to make sure veterans devastated by toxic exposure in Iraq and Afghanistan finally get the benefits and the comprehensive health care they deserve. And fourth and last, let's end cancer as we know it. This is personal. This is personal to me and to Jill and to Kamala and so many of you. So many of you have lost someone you love. Husband, wife, son, daughter, mom, dad. Cancer is the #2 cause of death in America, second only to heart disease. Last month, I announced the plan to supercharge the cancer moonshot that President Obama asked me to lead 6 years ago. Our goal is to cut cancer death rates by at least 50% over the next 25 years. I think we can do better than that. Turn cancers from death sentences into treatable diseases. More support for patients and their families. To get there, I call on Congress to fund what I called ARPA-H, Advanced Research Projects Agency for Health, patterned after DARPA in the Defense Department. Projects that led in DARPA to the internet, GPS, and so much more to make our forces more safer and be able to wage war with more clarity. ARPA will have a singular purpose: to drive breakthroughs in cancer, Alzheimer's and diabetes, and more. A unity agenda for the nation. We can do these things. It's within our power, and I don't see a partisan edge to any one of those four things. My fellow Americans, tonight we've gathered in this sacred space, a citadel of democracy, in this Capitol. Generation after generation of Americans have debated great questions amid great strife and have done great things. We fought for freedom, expanded liberty, debated totalitarianism and terror. We built the strongest, freest, and most prosperous nation the world has ever known. Now is the hour, our moment of responsibility.
I'm sorry, he just looks like a president. Does it? A picture of that face on Rushmore. They should put him up there anyway.
Our test of
I mean, he's literally made from stone.
resolve and conscience of history itself. It is in this moment that our character of this generation is formed. Our purpose is found. Our future is forged. Well, I know this nation. We'll meet the test, protect freedom and liberty, expand fairness and opportunity, and we will save democracy. As hard as those times have been, I'm more optimistic about America today than I've been my whole life, because I see the future that's within our grasp.
He's dead. He died about 45 minutes ago.
Because I know there's simply nothing
Oh, wait, he blinked. That's going to save somebody 50 cents.
beyond our capacity. We're the only nation on earth that has always turned every crisis we've faced into an opportunity. The only nation that can be defined by a single word: possibilities. So on this night, on our 245th year as a nation, I've come to report on the state of the nation, the State of the Union. And my report is this: the State of the Union is strong because you, the American people, are strong. We are stronger today. We are stronger today than we were a year ago. And we'll be strong.
So the Republicans have to say, "Oh, American people strong? Yeah, we better stand up for that. We're stronger today than we were a year ago and 2 years ago under Trump." Crap! We just
Stronger a year from now than we are today.
Well, the gas though, the price of gas.
This is our moment to meet and overcome the challenges of our time, and we will, as one people, one America, the United States of America. God bless you all.
And God bless our troops.
God protect our troops.
Hey!
Thank you. Go get him.
Go get him. Get who?
Okay, the speech is about an hour and 2 minutes, give or take.
Okay, it was a little longer for us. Let's go right. Oh, cramp. Oh. Oh, this never happens to Rachel Maddow. Ow. Holy smokes. Cut for me. Producers, cut for me. Go right to Newsmax. We'll keep an eye on when MTG is going to come on. She's doing some sort of rebuttal on RSBN. It'll probably be in a closet in the Capitol somewhere. Let's head right over to Newsmax. I had it queued up here. Here's Matt Gaetz being interviewed on Newsmax.
Well, first, we did not see the soaring oratory of Donald Trump or Barack Obama.
Soaring oratory?
Or Bill Clinton in these remarks. I think at one point, Joe Biden.
He's reading from a teleprompter and leaning into the mic like this. Yeah, soaring.
Biden even said that he was going to win the hearts and souls of the Iranian people in Kiev, which would certainly be breaking news if true.
There it is. That's the one mistake he made.
The fundamental flaw.
Well, he made a couple mistakes, but yeah.
The speech is that government spending doesn't solve inflation. In many cases, it causes it.
It doesn't cause it.
Precisely why Joe Manchin wouldn't vote for the very policies Joe Biden seemed to be pushing. And so it was almost a rehearsal or a redo of a lot of the policies that Biden couldn't get passed, whether it was on voting or whether it was on his economic spending agenda. It was a whole lot of regurgitation of failure from my perspective. And when you got to
there's a whole lot of regurgitation of success as well. What about that?
The unity agenda and like the opioid crisis, I think a lot of Americans are wondering why you can get a heroin delivered faster than a futon from IKEA right now. I don't think he spoke to those kitchen.
Does IKEA even deliver?
Table issues that are the reason why he walked in.
And does Matt Gaetz have a heroin delivery service? Is that how he gets his high school girls?
Into the Congress tonight with an approval rating.
He probably drives.
That is declining rapidly.
I also found it interesting, Congressman, that he almost tried to use the crisis in Ukraine, the courage that we are seeing from the Ukrainian people, to his credit.
If anybody's watching the Republican rebuttal, the real one, let me know.
Almost like that was bringing unity to America, that he in some way initiated that.
We're used to seeing politicians wrap themselves in the flag, but usually it's the American flag. Here you almost saw him wrap himself in the Ukrainian flag. It took him quite a bit of time to actually get to the priorities of Americans. I found it bizarre that we were 32 minutes into the speech before Joe Biden said, and the rising cost of goods is my number one priority. Typically, number one priorities make it a little before half an hour into the speech. And I think that front-loaded focus on Ukraine is unlikely to bring Joe Biden out of the tailspin that he's in.
All right.
Okay, but important. Ukraine's our ally and they're at war right now. So that was the right thing, to mention it right away so that it wasn't an afterthought.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your reaction.
I mean, the Russians are surrounding Kiev as we speak. But yeah, no, that should be 45 minutes into the speech.
We're going to bring you back to New York here with Dick Morrison and Rick Santorum.
Oh, good. Rick Santorum's there. Let's go back to a real station and see what's going on. Give me a moment. Let's see. Over on RSBN, they're still showing Donald Trump's speech from CPAC, from, I don't know, I don't even know what year this was. I didn't watch this year's speech from CPAC.
A little bit. President Biden giving his first State of the Union address.
See if I can go live on this one. There we go.
I mean, to talk to Putin and also talk to...
Okay, I don't know who is giving the rebuttal, official rebuttal from the Republicans, but we can find out pretty quickly. GOP rebuttal, State of the Union. Let's find out here. The official rebuttal is going to be, Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds, who basically had no mask mandates, threw away all the COVID bad things, all of the mandates, and her state suffered greatly for it.
The Ukraine.
That was where many people in the meatpacking industry died because they got COVID, and she did nothing to help the meatpackers.
People. Given Putin's invasion of Ukraine, what he should have just said unequivocally, we are not going to let this stand. We intend to assist the Ukrainians resist this invasion with everything that we can.
No, so he wants this guy, I don't know who this is, on Fox, but we're going to send Americans into the Ukraine? It's just Ukraine now. I got to stop calling it the Ukraine. Years and years and years of Soviet propaganda leaking into my brain.
And we're also going to assist them to drive all the Russian troops off their land.
Right. They just approved more arms going that way. 3 times since September, arms have been approved. It's now up to $1 billion in equipment and lethal weapons for the Ukrainians. Can I still say the Ukrainians? Is that okay?
For as long as it takes. Let the Ukrainians know that they were staying with them.
He just said it.
And I thought there's another opportunity.
Yeah, but I mean, we're staying with them? Yeah, well, that's part of the we stand with Ukraine.
We're going to have likely a humanitarian catastrophe on our hands as they bomb these cities and encircle them.
Right.
And the amount of death and hardship that's going to take place inside of them. He should have set a stage for that and said, did
he not? Was this guy watching something else?
Humanitarian crisis is possibly coming. I'm going to ask the United Nations and our allies and partners to support the United Nations and leading an effort to relieve the human suffering that's going to take place. Those are two essential points I think needed to be made here, and particularly the first.
Does anybody think that Joe Biden won't support the United Nations? That point has to be made?
One
is bringing the Ukrainian ambassador, that's okay, right? Saying the Ukrainian ambassador is bringing Ukrainian ambassador to the State of the Union as a special guest, mentioning her and telling her that this country stands with her country. Is that not enough?
Going right to the Ukrainian people and going right,
I don't know who this joker is.
Right to Putin to let him know
jump ahead.
This is much. He didn't even make a commitment to give them all.
He's still talking.
Arms and ammunition that
I just skipped ahead about 5 minutes. He's still talking.
They need. That's what I'm talking about. He didn't make a commitment to assist them.
Is this General what's his face? General Keane? I think this is the general that Fox has on all the time. Hold on a second. Let me go back here and see if there's audio on this. Let's see. Is there audio on this? Give me a second here. Let me go back here because I just saw Joe Biden speaking. Newsmax is covering this. Let's see if there's audio of Joe Biden, what he says here.
Knowledgeable about, but very instrumental in America. Fertilizer. Talk to us about what's happening in the fertilizer business in America and how important that is.
I think he says it's going just fine. I don't know. I'm not a lip reader, but Eric Bolling was talking over it.
Different thing that's going to happen in this country?
No, I think there's much we can do. First of all, he didn't even make a commitment to give them all the arms and ammunition that they need. That's what I'm talking about. He didn't make a commitment to assist them if this government gets toppled like it's...
Yeah, that's General Jack Keane. Retired.
Likely going to do, and the Ukrainian military's defeat. You know full well what's going to happen here. The Ukrainian people are going to rise up. We should have made a commitment to them to assist them in that. I wouldn't expect him to say publicly that there are some...
Yeah, we are committing to that. $1 billion, General Keane.
Things that we can do covertly to assist the Ukrainian people. I'm not suggesting he would do that, but I've been hoping.
So you don't want him publicly to commit to being covert? Keane makes me giggle every time he's on.
That he's talking to essential intelligence agencies and Title 50 in terms of what we can do actually now to assist. There's risk associated with that. I'm not suggesting that there's...
Still waiting on MTG. We're monitoring things. If something else pops up, if we see the Kim Reynolds, the governor, start talking, let me know.
Not. But there are things that we...
welcome to the broadcast, by the way. I am Kevin Williams, your Heavenly Father. This is the first broadcast, the inaugural broadcast, if you will, and the first State of the Union broadcast from the Stable Boy Studios. Thanks to producer JoJo for making this possible. This is just the back room in the Stable Boy Studios. This isn't even the main room. Quite impressive.
Can do, and we have done them in the past, and we got the people to help.
Okay, General Keane, thank you very much.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with the Republican response right after this. Stay with us.
Please do. Let me jump ahead here, and I'd love to show you what's going on MSNBC. I can't.
I think that they think they've made great headway with you.
I would get a copyright strike for that.
Ukraine because of the...
Hold on just a second. What I want to do is see if I can pull up some of the European coverage. They won't be covering this. They'll be showing us Ukrainian footage. Let me just see what's going on the other channels. Here's RSBN. They are talking right now. I don't know. Okay, they're saying next Marjorie Taylor Greene is coming up here, so let's see what they're discussing.
A disconnected from reality State of the Union address. Wardynski, a Trump presidential appointee, deemed Biden a puppet and a delusional and dishonest president. In a statement regarding the annual address, Wardynski's...
Oh, she's just reading a news article. Okay, well, we'll hold on that until MTG comes up. This is this, what's his face? I forget his name. It doesn't matter, but let's just tune in.
Wouldn't happen, that Germany wouldn't be there, that
it's, what, Meghan Markle? No, not Meghan Markle. Anyway. McCain. Meghan McCain. Meghan McCain. I think that's Meghan McCain's husband. Meghan McCain, the daughter of our good friend and legendary Senator John McCain.
Talk about the fact that there are 31 Democrats who have decided to retire. They will not be running again. And that means that the Republicans have opportunities in many of those races for pickups. So I felt that tonight.
Okay, well, the election is months and months and months away. So let's see what else is being covered all over the place. We have anybody interesting speaking right now anywhere? Can we get some coverage? How's everyone doing, by the way? MSNBC is talking to Klobuchar. Yeah, I can't watch her. I thank God she didn't get the nomination for president. She would have been beaten soundly by Trump. And if the unthinkable happened and she became president, I would have to listen to her voice. I love her. I do. I just can't. I'm an independent, folks. Not a Democrat, not a Republican. I will tell you the truth. And sometimes my truth is not the truth you're hoping for. But it is the truth. Here's a look at Ukraine.
Certain number of policies. And
this is Lviv. There's nothing happening there. I think that is the guy. I think that's Meghan McCain's husband. Who cares?
Senator Kim Reynolds is ready to give the Republican response to the State of the Union.
Go.
Let's listen in.
Go.
Of the great state of Iowa. Like you, I just watched the president's address. I listened as the governor of our state, as a mom and a grandmother of 11, who's worried our country is on the wrong track. We're now 1 year into his presidency, and instead of moving America forward, it feels like President Biden and his party have sent us back in time, to the late 70s and early 80s, when runaway inflation was hammering families, a violent crime wave was crashing our cities, and the Soviet Army was trying to redraw the world map. Even before taking the oath of office, the president told us that he wanted to, quote, make America respected around the world again, and to unite us here at home. He's failed on both fronts. The disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal did more than cost American lives. It betrayed our allies and emboldened our enemies. North Korea is testing missiles again at an alarming rate. The Speaker of the House recently warned our Olympic athletes.
Someone is there talking in the background. I don't know where that audio feed is coming from.
Not to speak out against China. And now Russia has launched an unprovoked, full-scale military invasion of Ukraine, an attack on democracy, freedom, and the rule of law. Now all Americans must stand united in solidarity with the brave people of Ukraine as they courageously defend their country against Putin's tyranny as they fight for their freedom. But we shouldn't ignore what happened in the run-up to Putin's invasion, waiving sanctions on Russian pipelines while eliminating oil production here at home, focusing on political correctness rather than military readiness, reacting to world events instead of driving them. Weakness on the world stage has a cost, and the president's approach to foreign policy has consistently been too little, too late. It's time for America to once again project confidence. It's time to be decisive. It's time to lead. But we can't project strength abroad if we're weak at home. And that's what I want to discuss with you tonight. The president and Democrats in Congress have spent the last year either ignoring the issues facing Americans or making them worse. They were warned that spending trillions would lead to soaring inflation. They were told that their
Well, no, I mean, it's demand. We're coming out of a recession where there's a lack of supply because of COVID, and there's a demand because the economy's growing at 5.7%. Yes, it feels like we're back in the 80s. 1984 was the only time we've been close to that in the last few decades.
Energy
under Reagan, by the way. We are right now, the economy is as good as it ever was under Reagan.
Policies which send gas prices to new heights.
They're not new heights. They're not at record prices at all.
But they plowed ahead.
They haven't been this high since 2014, but they're not record prices.
Anyway.
Not even close.
Raising the price at the pump by 50% and pushing inflation to a 40%.
Well, that's demand. We're done with COVID now, in many people's mind. I know we're not done with it, but you know what I'm saying. People are traveling again. People are driving again. People are going to work again. The job market is incredible. This is the best job market we have ever had in this country.
Year high. 4 decades ago, when our nation was last reeling from inflation, I was a young working mom just starting out. My husband Kevin worked days while I watched our girls, and then
not me.
Literally switch. We would pass in the yard as he was coming home, and I was leaving to work evenings at the local grocery store. From across that checkout counter, I saw the pain of inflation on my neighbors' faces. I saw what happens when prices rise faster than wages. The Biden administration believes inflation is...
Wait, when was this?
Send gas prices to new heights, but they plowed ahead anyway, raising the price at the pump by 50%.
Yeah.
And then we would literally switch to a 40-year high. 4 decades ago, when our nation was last reeling from inflation, I was a young working mom just starting out. My husband Kevin worked days while I watched our girls, and then we would literally switch. We would pass in the yard as he was coming home, and I was leaving to work evenings at the local grocery store. From across that checkout counter, I saw the pain of inflation on my neighbors' faces. I saw what happens when prices rise faster than wages. The Biden administration believes inflation is a, quote, high-class problem. I can tell you, it's an everybody problem.
She apparently didn't watch the State of the Union.
I saw moms and dads' paychecks buy them less and less. I watched working people choose which essentials to take home and which ones to leave behind. And now President Biden's decisions have a whole new generation feeling that same pain. When I took the oath of office 5 years ago, I promised Iowans that I would never lose sight of who I was working for, that I wouldn't become detached from the problems they were facing, from the problems that I had faced myself. But you don't have to check groceries to see what high inflation does to people. You just need to...
That is true, judges. They agree. So...
step outside of the DC bubble. Talk to Americans about what's on their mind.
Just remember to bring your grocery ID if you want to purchase anything.
Ask them, what are your concerns? What keeps you up at night? And they'll tell you. And I can tell you what's not on that list. They won't tell you that spending trillions more and bankrupting their children is the answer to their problems. They won't tell you that we should be paying people not to work. And they...
No one is paying people not to work. That's all done.
Certainly won't tell you.
And by the way, the Republican states who ended the pandemic assistance early, those states did much, much worse in the jobs recovery.
That we should give billions in tax giveaways to millionaires and billionaires in Democrat-controlled states like California, New York, and New Jersey.
What?
But that's what the Biden administration has been pushing for over the last year. And that's all part of Build Back Better. Thankfully...
They're talking about the SALT tax, but she's got it wrong.
The president's agenda didn't pass because even members of his own party said enough is enough. Well, the American people share that view. Enough is enough. And it's not just with DC spending. Americans are tired of a political class trying to remake this country into a place where an elite few tell everyone else what they can and cannot say.
We did that with the tax cut, didn't we? What are you talking about? Blue check marks on Twitter? Who's telling people what they can't say?
What they can and cannot believe. They're tired of people pretending the way to end racism is by categorizing everybody by their race. They're tired of politicians who tell parents they should sit down, be silent, and let government control their kids' education and future. Frankly, they are tired of the theater, where politicians do one thing when...
And this isn't. This is Bukkake theater right here is what this is.
The cameras are rolling, and another when they believe you can't see them. Where governors and mayors enforce mandates but don't follow them. Where elected leaders tell their citizens to stay home while they sneak off to Florida for sun and fun. Where they demand...
That's an AOC reference, by the way.
...that your child wear a mask, but they go maskless. So you've heard the excuses. They were just holding their breath. But it's the American people who are waiting to exhale, waiting for the insanity to stop.
Well, we're not wearing masks anymore. That's okay. You can go ahead and let your breath out now. But why were they holding their breath? They're wearing a mask, right?
We now live in a country where violent crime is out of control.
We don't.
Liberal prosecutors are letting criminals off easy.
There are some, yeah, that's a huge problem. Liberal or conservative, doesn't matter. Remember, Trump passed the second strikes or whatever, so a bunch of criminals got out.
And many prominent Democrats still want to defund the police. You know, it seems...
No. I mean, prominent, I suppose? If you take 2 or 3 of the squad or something... Joe Biden's never been in favor of defunding the police. In the State of the Union, he said we need to give the police more funding.
It's like
it was pre-written, and they didn't get the speech right at all. They took a lot of potshot guesses, like the Newsmax bingo card, and they got it all wrong.
Everything is backwards. The Biden administration requires vaccines for Americans who want to go to work or protect this country.
Right.
But not for migrants who illegally cross the border.
No, the migrants, they get vaccines as well.
The Department of Justice treats parents like domestic terrorists.
They do not. That was not in the letter. They said you are welcome to have robust debate. That's in the letter, in the memo from the DOJ. Robust debate is protected under the Constitution. Threatening people is not.
But looters and shoplifters roam free.
No, thousands of people were arrested for looting and shoplifting. By the way, shoplifting is not a federal crime.
American people are left to feel like they're...
That's a you crime. If you've got a shoplifting problem in Des Moines, that's you. Those are state offenses. Governor, fix it.
The enemy. This is not the same country it was a year ago. The president...
No, it's the United States of America.
...tried to paint a different picture tonight, but his actions...
Hey, he said it was better, that the American people were stronger than a year ago, and the Republicans applauded.
...over the last 12 months don't match the rhetoric. It's not what he promised when he took office. But it doesn't have to be that way.
Oh, yeah, actually, it does. It really does. I mean, it's not that way, the way you're describing it. But he is the president. And no one's going to overturn and reinstate Trump despite what the MyPillow guy says.
Is an alternative.
What?
Across the nation, Republican governors and legislators are showing Americans what conservative leadership looks like.
And you're cracking down on the crime?
What it means to respect the people we serve, to hear them out, to stand up for them and walk alongside them. We know that our problems require bold action, But we also know that bold action doesn't have to mean government action. It's Americans making their own decisions for their own family.
Yeah, well, she was the governor last year. Violent crime in Iowa ticked up 13.9%. So there is an alternative. Same results, but there is an alternative.
And future. Republican governors face this.
In 2020, there were 111 murders in Iowa. That's half the population. That means we'll have to check that. That's an 85% increase. An 85% increase. New York hasn't had an 85% increase in murders. Chicago hasn't had it. Seattle hasn't. Portland hasn't.
Same COVID-19 virus head on. But we honored your freedoms and saw right away that lockdowns and school closures, they came with their own significant cost, that mandates weren't the answer. And we actually listened to the...
Dubuque, Iowa, her jurisdiction, had a 50% increase in violent crime. 50% under her leadership. Please.
Science, especially with kids in masks and kids in schools. What happened and is still happening to our children over the last 2 years is unconscionable. Learning loss, isolation, anxiety, depression. In so many states, our kids have been left behind, and so many will never catch up. That's why...
So let's just give up on the children.
Iowa was the first...
It makes me laugh every time. The children's lives are ruined. They'll never be able to be anything special.
First state in...
We need to kill them all.
...in the nation to require that schools open their doors. I was attacked by the left.
Kids are going to be okay. The kids are going to be just fine. I know a lot of people with kids. I know this is just anecdotal, but none of the people with kids that I know believe that their children's lives are ruined, and they'll never amount to anything now. So, some of you have children in the audience, and at random you have Rusty, and he's had a muzzle on. Is it? What is happening on this channel? Hold on. What is happening here? Do we have audio on this? Hold on. Oh no, it's just a song. Yeah, someone's just messing with the camera. Okay. That scared me, by the way.
I was attacked by the media, but it wasn't a hard choice. It was the right choice.
Ooh.
And keeping schools
12 minutes till Marjorie Taylor Greene. They have a countdown clock.
Open is only the start of the...
Right, and Biden opened up the schools. Remember? Especially at the beginning of this year, even with Omicron, Biden was out there telling the school districts to stay open. We have the protection. And if you're not getting the funding, you're supposed to be getting the funding from the American Rescue Act. Let us know. That's what he said.
Pro-parent, pro-family revolution that Republicans are leading in Iowa and states across this country. Republicans...
Philharmonic says, my kid's just fine. Thoughts and prayers, Phil.
Believe that parents matter. It was true before the pandemic, and it has never been more important to say out loud.
What?
Parents matter. They have a right to know and to have a say in what their kids are being taught.
Right, and one Democratic candidate for governor said that, and he lost. He lost. The parents don't have a say. And it was taken out of context, of course, but it was a stupid, stupid, stupid thing to say. And the country's probably better off without him. Except that there's a Republican governor there now.
Families also have every right to live in a safe and a secure community. And that begins with a safe and secure country. But the Biden administration has refused to secure our border. They've refused to provide the resources to stop human trafficking, to stop the staggering influx of deadly drugs coming into our neighborhoods. They've refused.
Well, I mean, they have record seizures of drugs at the border. So, I mean, they're literally doing more enforcement now than they ever have in the history of this country. So I don't know about the whole refusal.
To protect you. With Texas and Arizona leading the way, I, along with Republican governors from several states, have sent resources to the border. And we've actually gone to the border, something that our president and vice president have yet to do since taking office.
No, Kamala Harris has gone to the border. I mean, hold on. Kamala Harris visits southern border. Here we go. CNBC, June 25th. VP, Vice President Kamala Harris, delivers remarks on immigration at the border. They just live in a different reality. It's got nothing to do with ours.
On the economy, the contrast couldn't be more stark. While Democrats in D.C. are spending trillions, sending inflation soaring, Republican leaders around the country
don't want to give you any help whatsoever. Screw infrastructure.
Are balancing budgets and cutting taxes because we know that money spent on Main Street is better than money spent on bureaucracy. Today...
Yeah, but the money... See, the money goes to the states and the cities, and they spend it on things like police officers and schools and safety and, yeah.
I signed legislation that eliminates Iowa's tax on retirement income and sets our tax rate at 3.9%. That's less than half of what it was just 4 years ago.
And violent crime spiked 50% in Dubuque because we don't have the funding to pay for the police officers anymore. And all of those COVID restrictions, well, we got rid of them. Consequently, we were the 15th worst state when it came to cases during COVID, even though we have a state that's very sparsely populated. Let me just, I'll tell you what, let's pull something up because this is interesting. These are the worst states for cases. Let me start. Let's see where you are. Yeah, there you are. You're 15th for cases. Just listen to the top 20. Let's just do the top 20 states for cases. Give me a second here. Okay, the countdown clock is gone, so I guess MTG is running behind. Let me take a look at that. We got Jim Jordan, and we got... that's not... oh, okay, that's Mark... what's his face? The former... what's his face? Mark... all right, they'll say his name. The chief for President Trump. We'll go to him in a second. Mark Meadows. We'll go to him in a second, but first we're just going to take a look. This is, and just so you know I'm not making this up, I'll bring it over here. These are the worst states for COVID. Top 20. Rhode Island, Democratic state. They got hit and hammered early on before we knew what was going on. Perhaps one of the first states. New York, Rhode Island, etc. They had a terrible, terrible time with it. Alaska, North Dakota, Tennessee, Utah, Kentucky, South Carolina, West Virginia, Florida, Arkansas, Arizona, Wisconsin, Wyoming, South Dakota, Iowa, there she is, Mississippi, Louisiana, Delaware, there's an exception, Kansas, Alabama. Red states. Red states. Arguably 19 of the top 20. You could say 17 of the top 20 if you stretched it out and said, well, some governors here or legislature there. Top 20 states, almost every single one of them, Republican. With no mask mandates. Almost every single one. But yeah, no, masks don't work.
And it shouldn't come as a surprise that out of the...
And if you take those stats and look at them from the inception of vaccines, let's say last January, when vaccines sort of became readily available, at least to the older population, it's even worse.
Top 20 states with the lowest unemployment rates, 17 have Republican governors. Republicans may not have the White House, but we're doing what we can to...
And so who's their president? Just wondering. Who's the president of the entire nation? With really, really low unemployment right now. With the best job market in the history of the country. With wage growth faster than it has been in any period since the 1980s. Again, Reaganomics. that, by the way, was due to a lot of spending. He outspent the Soviets, and that's why we don't have the Soviet Union. But we entered the 80s as the world's largest creditor. We ended it as the world's largest debtee.
Fill the leadership vacuum. And on
Reagan spent us into debt.
the issues that are affecting Americans, Republicans are leading. We're
They're not even in power.
Standing up for parents and kids. We're standing up for life.
Except if they want childcare, so the parents can work and do better for their family. Oh, also, we fought hard against the child tax credit. So every American family with a child is no longer getting their $300 a month per child, or $350 if that kid is under 6 years old. We fought that and we won, because families don't need money. And poverty rate, which was cut, child poverty rate, which was cut almost by half, well, that'll rise back up again. There'll be a huge spike in it because we defeated the child tax credit.
We're keeping our communities safe and thanking those in uniform. We're fighting.
Unless it's Dubuque, and unless those people in uniform happen to depend on some of the rescue package, which every single Republican voted against. Oh, and as long as those cops don't have kids, then we don't have to worry about the child care.
Restore America's energy independence, and that includes biofuels. We're getting people back.
She's talking about corn, ethanol, which is, by the way, recently they figured out that's kind of worse for greenhouse gases. We've known this for a long time.
Back to work, not paying them to stay home.
Yeah, no one's doing that. We said that.
Most of all, we're respecting your freedom. Behind me stands Iowa's Capitol, where we display our state motto, our liberties we prize and our rights we will maintain. And those aren't just empty words. It's a belief that the greatness of this state and this country lies in our people, not government. You shouldn't have to wake up every morning and worry about the next thing the government is going to do to you.
I don't. Who does?
Your business or your children.
Who wakes up in the morning and thinks about that first thing? Against my children. What is the government going to do to my children today? Oh my God, what a bucket load of snowflakes.
We as elected leaders are doing our job, then the government is working well, but operating in the background. It's supporting the ingenuity and spirit of our people, not drowning them out. It's keeping them safe, not restricting their freedom. That's what I believe, that's what Republicans believe, and that's what Republicans are doing. I am so blessed to be the governor.
She's a much better reader than Trump. I'll give her that.
Of Iowa, where people are humble, hardworking, and patriotic. We take care of each other. And yes, we are, as they say, Iowa nice. But you don't have to be from Iowa to see that those are the values of America at its best. All of America. Over the last few years, I've put my faith in
How long is this?
Iowans, and they haven't let me down. I encourage this president to do
Okay, she's almost done.
The same, to put his faith in you, the American people.
Yeah, he does over and over again. He believes every time he gives a speech almost. He says, I believe there is nothing we cannot accomplish if the American people do it together. That's what he says. That's his thing.
Who have never wavered in your belief in this country, regardless of who leads it. Because you know, you've shown that the soul of America isn't about who lives in the White House. It's men and women like you in every corner of this nation who are willing to step up and take responsibility for your communities, for your neighbors, and ultimately for yourselves. By that most important measure at least, the state of our union is indeed strong. Thank you.
Great. That is exactly what Joe Biden said. Because the American people are strong. So she just agreed with Biden. She did not watch the speech. Or at least if they watched it, they did nothing to correct what she just said, because she just said, parenthetically, exactly what Joe Biden said.
God bless you, and God bless the United States of
What about
America.
the troops? Protect the troops!
Republican governor from Iowa, Kim Reynolds, who is really sailing to re-election in 2022. She has an approval rating above 80% among Republicans in Iowa.
Amongst Republicans.
Of course, the first in the nation caucus state standing.
But yeah, that's a red state. And you know that because it's one of the top states in terms of COVID numbers.
In front of the state capitol with the sound of a train going by in the mid.
That's what it was. There must be a train right there in front of the state capitol. And it sounded like the trains were docking. I don't know if they have a switchyard there or what. But yeah, there was a lot of noise in the background there. Let's jump on over. Well, let's go live first on Fox and see what they're up to. I can do that. Give me a second here. State of the Union analysis. I wish I could watch that, but I'm sticking with you folks. Oh, Hannity. Let's see if Hannity's actually talking. Hannity. Let's start from the beginning of Hannity, and we'll hear
speaking with the media, talking about what he needs from the United.
Hold on a second here.
Civilian areas tonight. Joining us now with the very latest on the ground. He's in.
Well, actually, watch this. This is an update on Ukraine.
In Kyiv tonight. Our own Trey Yingster's with us. Trey, what's the latest tonight?
Sean, good evening. We are learning that Russian paratroopers have reportedly landed on the outskirts of Ukraine's second largest city, Kharkiv. This is significant.
It does sound like they're going for Kharkiv first before they go for Kiev. They've been cluster bombing there. There's reports that they used a vacuum bomb there, which is not what anyone's supposed to do. That's against all of the conventions.
Because the city,
except CPAC,
city has been under siege for the.
I'm keeping an eye on MTG, by the way. We got plenty to watch if you guys want to stick around. Producer Jojo, if you happen to be watching right now, if you wouldn't mind bringing me from the main house out to the Stable Boy Studios, either some ice water or one of those fakey root beers, anything would be great. Thank you.
Past few days here in the
guys, give it up for JoJo, by the way. If she does it, say thanks, because my throat is absolutely parched now, and I can't go on.
Capital of Kyiv, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is bracing for some heavy days of fighting that could be in the days to come. And we know he was in a bunker today, speaking with the media, talking about what he needs from the United States and how he would like to request a no-fly zone over this country. He also talked about President Biden. Here's what he had to say.
I talked to President Biden many times. I am very grateful to him for all the opportunities and the support, but they did not hear me. I told them that Ukraine will fight more than anyone else, but we, just by ourselves, left alone against Russia, we simply cannot manage.
The Ukrainian capital of Kyiv.
It'll be interesting to hear how Hannity spins that. He probably won't touch it, but he may spin it, and I want to hear how you spin that. That Biden's not listening. Okay, $1 billion worth of stuff. What do you want? Do you want American serviceman to go to Ukraine?
Was hit multiple times today with Russian missiles. One TV tower was taken out by a Russian strike, killing 5 people. The streets behind me, Sean, are quite eerie. A curfew remains in place, and off in the distance I can see soldiers. They've set up checkpoints at a number of locations across this city. They are checking cars to make sure that no Russian advanced troops get inside the city limits before the expected offensive. Sean?
All right, Trey, thank you. We'll continue to monitor all that's on the ground tonight in Ukraine all night long. But first, Biden's first official State of the Union is now in the books, and as expected, it was an unmitigated, predictable disaster. Platitudes.
Yay! Thank you, producer Joe. Do you want to say hi or no? You're going to take your glasses off? Oh, she's letting her hair down. Okay, are you just say hi to the peoples? There we go. Okay, that was 1/4 of her face. Thank you.
Bumper stickers, slogans, you name it.
Unmitigated disaster. Oh God. Countdown clock is now set for 5 minutes for Marjorie Taylor Greene.
You know, filled with smoke and mirrors, detached from reality.
Smoke and mirrors.
Seemingly written, to be honest, by a kid in kindergarten, maybe first grade, if we're being generous. Delivered by someone.
Really?
One in a
That's being generous. A kid in the first grade?
Deep mental decline. He failed to acknowledge his Afghan failure. He failed to acknowledge his border failures. He
did talk about the border.
Mention his failures on COVID. By the way, how did we run out of tests around Christmas? How come we ran out of
Well, because Omicron came.
Clonal antibodies over Christmas.
Plenty of tests now. By the way, I mentioned earlier in the broadcast, if you weren't watching, go to a pharmacy. First off, go on your healthcare company website and find out from them how you can get your 8 free COVID tests. Some of them you just order it, they send it to you. Others, for example, with mine, you go to a pharmacy, excuse me, and you just ask them for 8 COVID tests. I was at Walmart yesterday at the Walmart pharmacy. I don't usually go to Walmart, but we were there because JoJo was charging her fancy car. They gave me 8 tests just for showing my insurance card. They process it. Now I'm in their system. Next time it should be lickety split. Hey, I'd like some tests. What's your name? Here you go. Here are your 8 tests. And we used one of those tests today. So be safe. And only one person, of all the people who've come to see, because JoJo's got this nice new house and people want to come see it, only one of her friends is like, no. I'm like, would you like a test? I can give you a test. No. Now I don't ask them if they want a test. I'll just say, okay, great. Yeah, we'll give you a tour of the outside first. Let's stick this up your nose. There we go. They're just like, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Don't give them the option. But I have a fridge in here. In the studio, I'll show you guys around the studio at some point. Right now, the studio is just an absolute... this is the back room of the studio. That's a green screen. That's why it's doing that. It's not a portal. It's a ladder to another dimension. You can see I'm hardwired there to the internet. That's a TV on its side. That's the box for the computer. This place is absolutely jam-packed. That's a recording studio in there for audio. I got my own AC and heat, and that's the main section out there. You can see there's just boxes everywhere. I haven't had a chance to unpack. I've been pretty busy. But again, thanks to producer JoJo for making this all happen. Really, she's a super producer. I mean, not as good as producer Debbie, who got me a skate sharpener, honestly. But there is a fridge in the studio. We'll show you around another time.
Christmas, he failed to acknowledge that he caused this inflation because of...
He didn't cause the inflation. The inflation is worldwide. Are you saying that Joe Biden is some sort of magical sorcerer who drove up the prices of goods across the planet?
His economic and energy policies. He failed to say the main sanction that would have worked on Putin, which is... Yes, energy. No imports. No.
Okay, but that would drive up the price of gas, Sean. They're being very, very smart and strategic about this, Sean. You sanctioned that energy, there goes a whole bunch of billions of barrels of oil out of the market, and that drives up energy prices. Wow.
No exports of Russian energy.
I had JoJo bring me the Diet Hansen's root beer, which is delish, by the way, because quite frankly, she needs the exercise. No, I don't think I have anything stocked in the fridge yet. There is a chicken in there, but that would probably not quench my thirst.
But he refused.
Oh, and a blueberry pie.
Refuses to do.
And that's exactly why Joanna needs the exercise.
Do so instead.
I am kidding, of course. She exercised. She went for a run this morning. Joanna, if you want to come in and tell your story about the horsies, you can come tell your story. Otherwise, MTG's on in about a minute.
As I said, bumper stickers, slogans, platitudes, cliches, and to be honest, I would have preferred to watch the president of Ukraine, who is now bravely fighting and leading a war against this Russian invasion.
Okay, well, you can do that, Sean. You can show Vladimir Zelensky's speech right now. You can do that on your show. You just showed a snippet of it. You can do that. If you would rather watch that, fucking do it, Sean.
And tonight, if the world was looking for any American leadership, they didn't get it from Joe Biden. This speech defined America last, not America first. And by the way, Joe lied over.
Oh, but he's the one who's using bumper sticker slogans, right, Sean? It's him.
Over and over and over again. We can start with jobs. Take a look.
That's one of the first things I did as president was fight to pass the American Rescue Plan. Because people were hurting. We needed to act, and we did. It worked.
That's right. People were hurting. We were getting to herd immunity, which theoretically we're really close to right now. That's why Omicron basically stopped spreading. They believe because it infected everybody in the environment that was susceptible to it. It was that contagious. So you either had it or it wasn't going to affect you because you'd been vaccinated, etc.
We created jobs, lots of jobs. In fact, our economy created over 6.5 million new jobs just last year. More jobs.
Those are, by the way, many of those jobs are return jobs post-COVID.
In 1 year.
But those still count for new jobs. Because the jobs went away and they came back.
Ever before.
They're like recycled job. Green New Deal.
In the history of the United States of America.
That is a flat-out lie. Under Biden, the U.S.
Breaking news. Breaking news. MTG is late. Let's see what we've got. 2020 jobs report was 152 million. Okay. Now, 2 years later, Biden's saying since he came into office, 6 million new jobs have come around. And they have. There are now 6 million new jobs. What Sean Hannity is showing there is the February 2020 when Trump was in office. Let's see how he spins this. RSBN is again showing a Trump speech from CPAC 2022. Not MTG. Here's what they're showing live on their air right now. Let's see if you guys can see it. There you go. So MTG, nowhere to be found.
0.5 million new jobs just last year. More jobs.
Right.
In 1 year than ever before in the history of the United States of America.
That is a flat-out lie. Under Biden, the U.S. is down 3 million jobs. We're not up. And here's another lie from Biden.
No, that's 2 years. Biden said in the last year. You're doing 2 years, Sean.
Go look.
Under my plan.
That's it. He didn't even spin it. He just lied.
Nobody.
No. Like, Sean's people. I'm talking to you. If you're a graphic designer for Sean, don't even bother putting the years on there. You're going to fool a certain percent of the population because Sean Hannity's talking about it. They can't pause because they're 76 years old. That's the average age of the Fox News viewer, by the way. 76 years old. The average age. But don't even put the year on there because hardly anybody's going to look at that and say, that's not right, and then fact check it, and then come back. And obviously you don't care about fact checkers.
Say this again. Nobody earning less than $400,000 a year will pay an additional penny in new taxes. Not a single penny.
He's been telling that lie since he became president, but according to...
Oh, no, they're going to show us an article. A headline from an article from FoxNews.com. All right.
The analysts, Biden's spending...
So you're quoting yourself.
...in tax plans will definitely impact those making under $400,000 a year. And we're not even factoring Biden inflation, which is, well, impacting the poor and the middle class the most.
Hold on. Let's look at what this actually is. MTG still nowhere to be found. Biden spending bill would break his middle class tax pledge. An anal ESIS says, let's see what this is about. Would break his, and this is it David Arrow? It's David Arrow. Maybe Arrow? I don't even know. So this analysis was done by the Nonpartisan Tax Policy Center. It's partisan. Okay, so the link to it doesn't go to the actual nonpartisan study, so I can't. Fox News does that all the time. They put up a link to something and then it doesn't go there.
Most in this country. That's right. You pay more to fill up your car paying more to heat and cool your home, and you're paying more for every product you buy at every store you go to. And get this, we're now at a 40-year high for inflation. Joe didn't mention that tonight. And according to studies from the Wharton School of Business...
Right, we're at a 4-year high for economic growth as well. But he did talk about inflation and how it hurts everybody. He did mention that.
Congressional Budget Office, inflation is costing the typical American family upwards of $5,000 a year, and that number continues to rise. That would be a tax on the poor and the middle class. But tonight, Joe's genius solution to inflation...
That's including billionaires, by the way.
Just spend...
Not when you take it down to the actual middle class, it's nowhere near $5,000.
More money and encourage businesses...
Still waiting on MTG.
...to lower their costs. Oh, okay, Joe. Thanks for the help.
Yeah. Businesses, lower your costs. Oh, great. Yeah, thanks for the help. And get rid of the monopolies. Yeah.
Too many families are struggling to keep up with their bills.
Yep.
Inflation.
That's true.
Is robbing them of gains they thought otherwise they would be able to feel.
That's exactly what Hannity was just saying. He must have watched Hannity before he gave the speech.
I get it.
He gets it.
That's why my top priority is getting prices under control. Look, our economy roared back faster than almost anyone predicted. But the pandemic meant that businesses had a hard time hiring enough people because of the pandemic to keep up production in their factories.
That's correct.
So you didn't have people making those beams that went into buildings because they were out. The factory was closed. I think I have a better idea to fight inflation. Lower your costs, not your wages.
Pure fantasy from the mind of a career politician who clearly does not understand simple, basic economics 101 or business. And to that end, Joe Biden just basically all...
Explain it to us, Sean. He's not going to explain it.
Brett Baer nailed it. He repackaged Build Back Broke Better Socialism tonight.
He didn't explain it.
And he hoped that nobody would notice. Take a look.
Let's cut energy costs for families.
Yeah.
An average of $500 a year by combating climate change. Let's provide an investment tax credits to weatherize your home and your business, to be energy efficient and get a tax credit for it. Double America's clean energy production in solar, wind, and so much more. Lower the price of electric vehicles, saving another $80 a month that you're not going to have to pay at the pump.
Sounds good.
What Joe didn't tell you, he has put more restrictions on exploration and energy extraction than any president in the modern era. You see it because gas prices are shooting through the roof.
No, that's not why. There are wells right now that have permission to be drilled that the oil companies just are not doing. They lowered their production last year by 40% in order to drive up the prices. There's oil out there that's just going unpumped right now that could be pumped. You know why? Because the energy companies, the oil companies, their reason to exist is to make as much money for their stockholders as possible. That's what they're doing. You can't blame them. You can set regulations to try and stop them from doing it, but right now they're doing exactly what they should be doing, driving up the cost because demand is up. When supply goes lower, the prices go up. That's economics 101, by the way. This is what you still haven't explained. I'm waiting. I would love to hear how I'm wrong.
They have nearly doubled in the last year, but guess what?
They haven't doubled.
Tax credits for electric cars. Great.
Yes, that is great. Producer JoJo gets free energy right now. She doesn't care what the price of gas is. I mean, I'm sure she cares. I'm sure, like her friends are all paying for it. She just was having a conversation with a friend today, who, by the way, we used one of the free tests for, tested negative. And this friend is going to buy a car just like JoJo and get off the gas standard. So we're not spending any money on Russian oil.
Biden just bragged about releasing oil.
Oh, hold on a second. What is going on here? This is MTG, but it's not.
Gave her response to the State of the Union tonight, but I wanted somebody that has been out here on the front lines fighting with me and people like me all across this country to give an America First response to the State of the Union. Something that would talk about the things that we're all concerned about and we have been fighting for a while now. January 6th, political prisoners that have their constitutional rights are being trampled. When we have stolen elections, and we all know what a stolen election means. A stolen election has consequences, and elections have consequences, and stolen elections have catastrophic consequences, and we're living through those right now.
Well, the election wasn't stolen. All 50 governors and all 50 secretaries of state certified those elections.
There's no one else that I could think of that represents this movement that is not afraid to back down. She will never.
She is not afraid to back down. If something comes up in her face, she will back the fuck off. She's not afraid of doing that. When things get tough, she will give up. A lot of people won't do that.
Back down from a fight, and she's also from my home state of Georgia, and I'm honored to bring to you tonight, Women for America First is honored to bring to you Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. Thank you, Congresswoman.
Thank you, Amy.
These are all women who fantasize about sex with the Mushroom Man.
I'm honored, honestly. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone.
Just her purport, like, I don't want to talk about it.
And thank you for joining me. My name is Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yes, it is. Let's bring you full focus here, Miss Greene. Give me a second here. There we go. Let's see the top of your head, shall we? There you go. They have their camera set up strangely, but we can make that work. Give us a second here. Give us a second. Here we go. Okay, how you feeling now? You feeling better? Here we go.
And I'm proud to serve as the Congresswoman from Georgia's 14th District, nestled in the beautiful foothills.
She's reading. It's a teleprompter speech, unfortunately. Oh, it would be so much better if she was off the cuff.
Of the Appalachian Mountains in northwest Georgia. Most of you know me as an outspoken conservative firebrand who isn't afraid to speak.
No one calls her a firebrand. She calls herself a firebrand. By the way, Matt Gaetz also calls himself a firebrand.
Her mind and let the world know where I stand. And all that is true, but I'm more than just that. First of all, I'm a forgiven sinner, washed in the blood of our Lord Jesus Christ. My faith is my guidepost for everything I do. It's why I'm optimistic about our nation's future. If our country returns to the solid Christian foundation of our founding principles, we will see an American
not founded on Christian principles.
Revival.
I know. My ancestor literally got banished because he's like, we got to keep the church and state separate. They tried him for blasphemy, and they kicked him out of Rhode Island. That he founded. He founded Rhode Island. They kicked him out. They kicked him out of Massachusetts, too. Why? Because he was anti-slavery. Because he was a Baptist minister. And he said, hey, guys, this whole church and state, we got to keep, we were fleeing political persecution. Let's not have it here. They booted him.
Congresswoman thrust into a
Roger Williams, you can look that up.
Federal government that is completely broken. And I'm a citizen who wants to fix it. I'm also a wife and most importantly, a mother.
So I got myself kicked off of all the committees.
Which is a gift.
I'm going to fix it from the outside. It's like
given by God. Becoming a mother is the
I sometimes references pop into my head and then I realized, no, that's just going to upset some people.
Best job anyone could ever ask for. My husband and I built an incredible family and a successful business.
And we have 2 homes, both of which we used as write-offs from the Georgia state tax system, which is illegal and which I'm currently facing consequences for, but we keep that out of the press whenever we can.
American dream has been realized, but I'm worried that my
husband and I have the American dream, but I also had the American dream with the guy who worked down at the CrossFit place, and then another guy also had the American dream with him. But that's what's important to me is family.
Kids want
and sex with managers at CrossFit gyms and family.
Don't have that same future. and I'm worried that their kids won't have that same future.
Of a mother who goes to the CrossFit gym and has sex with the managers on a regular basis.
I'm worried the American way of life could end before our eyes.
It won't.
So tonight, I'm not speaking with you as a politician or a congresswoman.
You are.
Or someone who thinks they know more than you, like the typical Washington elites.
I'm glad you don't think that you know more than I do.
Who are so out of touch, they think they can run your life better than you. I'm here to be your voice. The voice of a business owner who actually knows what it's like to balance a checkbook. The voice of a wife who alongside her husband has to pay the bills. The voice of a mother concerned about her children's education and opportunities. And just like you, the voice of an everyday citizen fed up with a government
who has sex with managers at her CrossFit gym.
Who has failed you every step of the way.
And is cheating on her taxes.
This is the actual State of the Union. The State of the Union the media tries to hide from you. The state of Joe Biden's America.
What?
I want to talk to you first about our precious children. 2 years of virtual learning has led to missed educational milestones because learning on a computer surrounded by distractions just doesn't work as well as in-person instruction. Kids have been forced to wear masks for 2 years now, causing psychological problems, developmental delays, speech and language problems, and emotional issues. Instead of recognizing
which didn't exist before masks,
the harmful effects of their lockdown policies, radical Democrats
well, tell me about their development with COVID.
Simply lower educational achievement standards to gloss over the problem. Before COVID, federal standards said a 24-month-old should say an average of 50 words. Now they have come out with new guidelines saying they don't need to say 50 words until 30 months. And they eliminated...
Okay, first off, kids that young don't need to wear masks. Because they're not watching, because their parents are wearing masks at home? Where is this coming from? These kids are not in school, Marjorie. Even if the standards were changed from 24 to 30 months, probably because they realized some kids are developmentally delayed. These kids are not in school. Ever. There are so many things that you could point to illustrate your point. This is not one of them.
A whole bunch of other milestones for children. Meanwhile, they
then how about telling us one of those?
Conspire with the teachers' unions to keep our schools closed.
Schools are open, sweetheart.
Masking children is child abuse, and
it is not.
Will take us at least a decade or more to get
it is protecting the kids who are immunocompromised.
Back their educational achievements.
Where were you when they started banning peanuts from the school because of kids with peanut allergies?
Suicide rates have also increased in children and teens. For teens aged 13 to 18,
suicide rates have increased for everybody. COVID sucked.
18, mental health claims have doubled during the pandemic. And this generation...
So you're all for free healthcare, right?
Generation of students now stands to lose $17 trillion in earnings as a result of school closures.
Completely specious study.
Mental health problems...
So we give up on the kids, do we?
Among our youth have increased as a result of authoritarian Democrat control over a virus that doesn't even threaten their lives. The youngest and
It does.
Most precious among us have been the biggest victims of a pandemic that has been politicized and used by Democrats to seize power in America.
How so?
Biden's policies have also destroyed small businesses. Over 75% of American companies are small businesses. Since the pandemic began, over 200,000 small businesses, nearly 40% of the total, have permanently closed.
Right. And who was president when those businesses were shut down and they closed? Who was president then, Marjorie? There are arguments you could use. She's just such a bonehead.
When small businesses are closing, that means people are losing their jobs.
Yes, it does. She is correct. So, when did those people lose their jobs? It was under President, not Biden. And when do those people get the jobs back? Now that there's 11 million jobs opening? What?
And businesses that struggled to keep their doors open can hardly find anyone to work because the government is paying people to stay home.
They're not. That is from a year and a half ago.
No one wants to work when you can stay home with a government check being mailed to your mailbox.
What? No, direct deposit. Screw having to walk out to my mailbox. I'm a liberal, honey. I'm not going to get out of the couch.
50% of small business owners have reported being unable to fill job openings.
Only 50%?
Under President Biden.
That seems
Small
really low.
businesses are struggling because they can't receive supplies due to the horrible disruptions in the supply chain.
Yeah.
The sudden rise in inflation, the worst we have seen in 40 years, has hurt small business owners because not only
it's hurt everybody. Everybody.
Can they not
Are we done talking about the children now?
get supplies, but they can hardly afford them. If you're a small business owner today, you can hardly get anyone to show up to work, and you can hardly get the supplies you need to
If you raise their wages, they show up. I mean, that's been proven time and again.
run your company. And all this comes on the heels of over 2 years of barely being able to keep your doors open, thanks to
Yeah, who was president when that happened?
the Democrats' lockdown policies.
Oh, it was the Democrats. They were the presidents under Trump. All right.
Restaurants and manufacturing.
Okay, but you had a Republican governor in Georgia during that time. Brian Kemp has been the governor the entire time during COVID.
Companies are suffering the worst. And 92% of assistance manufacturing open thanks to the Democrats' lockdown policies. Restaurants and manufacturing companies are suffering the worst. And 92%.
Well, restaurants, yes. And that's, again, COVID. Trump was president when COVID started. And then Trump actually put the United States into a manufacturing recession, contraction, before COVID. Back in December of 2019, because of Trump's tariffs, we were in a manufacturing contraction before COVID even got here.
Percent of assisted senior living facilities are struggling to find employees. So not
Yeah, because that's the last place people want to go to work after COVID.
only did Democrat authoritarians kill off our
Democratic
elderly with their evil lockdown nursing home policies,
Wow.
but they also paid so many people to stay home that we can't take care of the ones
It was COVID that actually killed the peoples, the old folks.
that are still alive. Not only did Democrat authoritarian pandemic shutdown policies hurt our most innocent, our children, but they also hurt our companies. The ability to open and run your own small business is the American dream.
Right, and those are record numbers this year under Biden. I should say last year. But yeah, the small business has been absolutely booming. Like never before. Like nobody's ever seen before. Under Biden, small businesses have exploded, which is one of the reasons that people are finding it hard to find employees to work for them, because these employees figured out, I got some time right now because everything's shut down under Trump. I'm going to come up with a business plan. And when this is all done, I'm going to open up my own small business, and I'm going to work from home because you know what? I enjoy spending time in my home. I don't want to have to go work for somebody else. I want to work for myself.
But American radical Democrats are destroying it. Out of control inflation is the single most important business problem today under President Joe Biden. Small business owners today can hardly keep their doors open, can't find anyone to work, and can't get supplies. So now those businesses raise prices on customers who are also unable to afford their products. As Americans across the country suffer from the high skyrocketing inflation, every American has less money to spend, making
1 out of every 5 small business in this country last year started operations after COVID got here. 1 out of every 5. And this country's been around a lot longer than COVID.
making it difficult for them to afford to even eat with
That's 19%, but we're just going to say 1 out of every 5.
their family at their favorite local cafe. For decades, the Washington establishment created globalist policies to move America into the global economy, sending our jobs overseas to get higher corporate net profits. But the devastation to rural America and the family unit is beyond measure. As
83% of people surveyed by Intuit who want to start a business says COVID-19 has accelerated their plans to start their own business.
Manufacturing jobs went to Korea, India, China, and Mexico and more. Men went home jobless, and it was difficult to find another job. In every small town across America, there are manufacturing
Okay, but there's lots of jobs right now. There's 11 million jobs.
Plants that have been shut down.
There's more jobs right now than at any time in history.
Creating ghost towns in the Rust Belt. As fathers lost their jobs, mental illness and depression increased. And along with that comes...
And now that we're talking about mental illness, they bring up a picture of My Pillow.
Alcoholism and drug abuse.
There's the crack addict.
Creating fighting between mom and dad, and in many cases leading to divorce, which creates many problems for the children who lost their parents, family. Children no longer go to church every Sunday growing up to learn the foundations of morality, learning what's right and wrong. At the same time, the government removed God and prayer from the schools. And as the Washington establishment continued to pursue globalism.
She going back to like this 70s because of the Jews? What is she talking about?
And big donations, they pursued profit over people, getting rich off passing bills that serve the corporate interests but not the American people's interest. As more jobs went overseas, homelessness increased, mental illness increased, drug abuse increased, divorce rates skyrocketed, sexual perversion and porn watching has increased, and the traditional family values have been replaced with moral decay, ghost towns, and hopelessness. And now, in just over a year of Joe Biden's presidency, we have a wide open border where Border Patrol and ICE have their hands tied behind their backs, unable to do the jobs they swore an oath to do. They swore to uphold the laws of the land from invaders. And as Joe Biden and Kamala Harris signaled...
I put myself on mute there. Sorry about that, guy. I was going to say I'd rather read the chat than listen to her. So if you guys have anything to say, please do.
To the world that...
What's going on, people? What's new in your lives? I put a down payment on a car, another hydrogen car. My hydrogen car is going back. Goes back on the 7th. So I'm going to switch from a Toyota to a Honda. And that also comes with free hydrogen gas. So gas prices don't really affect me. If you live in California and you're looking for a new vehicle, take a look at it. And it's still dirt cheap. It's essentially a free car.
That America is open through our southern border.
Good night, babe.
They refuse to secure our nation, breaking their oath of office as traitors within. The result has been over 2 million apprehensions.
She's a better reader than Trump.
Of illegal aliens in just 14 months, which is more than under President Trump's entire...
These 35% of those are the same people.
4-year term. And that doesn't even count the one... More than under President Trump's entire 4-year term. And that doesn't even count the one...
It's not accurate.
They never saw and never caught. With only 19...
Well, no, and it didn't count under Trump either.
1,000 Border Patrol agents. Border Patrol is undermanned and overworked.
Yes, that's true.
And now America is being invaded at our wide open border at the invitation.
It's not wide open. Remember, Trump almost finished his wall. He almost built 500 miles of wall. So it's not wide open, is it? Apparently the wall doesn't work.
Of Joe Biden, and every single threat is...
Stephanie, on the way up to Oakland, I don't know. I don't even know. I think Stockton is not on the way to Oakland, and I think I might fly because there's flights from LAX to Oakland for as little as $19. So rather than spend 6 hours on the road, I think I just might fly up there.
Coming across, from terrorists to child trafficking to deadly poisonous fentanyl sent to America courtesy of the CCP and the Mexican cartels. Joe Biden is recklessly endangering every single American's life. But his most egregious action is flying illegal aliens in the dark of night across America.
Exactly, at random. If we've had more apprehensions under... Did I say apprehensions? If we've had more apprehensions than under Trump's whole presidency, how are the borders wide open? If they were wide open, nobody would be apprehended or apprehended. Pick one.
America, maybe to a suburb near you, and you're paying for it.
By the way, it's been almost a year and a half, and my suburb is still not burning. There's still no soup cans being thrown at my door. Not in the studio. And I moved. I moved from one suburb to another suburb, and this suburb is still not under fire.
And while we have been under extreme COVID tyranny for 2 years now, the leading cause of death in young people ages 18 to 45
is COVID.
Fentanyl.
18 to 45. Let's just make it children. It's COVID. Not fentanyl. COVID.
Poisoning, not COVID-19. People ages 18 to 45 is fentanyl poisoning.
It's fentanyl. She said it correctly. My mind just got blown. But the number one cause of death for children up to 18 is COVID.
Not COVID-19.
It is.
One thing is for sure, Joe Biden.
But young people go up to 45. Go tell somebody at their 40th birthday that they're part of the young people. They'll appreciate that.
Biden is a great business partner to the Mexican cartels. And while the media is feeding you blood, violence, and war 24/7 on every single TV, social media, and news app, owning the deadly Russian invasion of Ukraine, America is still reeling from Joe Biden's unforgivable failure in Afghanistan. Only 6 months ago, Biden abandoned Americans in Afghanistan, armed the Taliban Islamic terrorists.
He did not.
And unnecessarily cost the lives of 13 American soldiers. These families have not...
Okay, that was ISIS-K that killed them, or ISIS-X if you're Trump. And those ISIS-K members are mostly made up of Taliban extremists that Trump released from prison.
Not even finished mourning for their sons and daughter.
Oh, and if they're not the ones that Trump released from prison, those ones that Trump released from prison then went through the country opening up the prisons and emptying the prisons, and that's where the ISIS-K people came from.
He needlessly lost the lives of 13 American soldiers and now has sent thousands of American troops over to Eastern Europe to defend another country's border. And now the war hawks...
Well, they're NATO members. Those countries also fought for us after September 11th. We're the only country in the history of NATO to invoke Article 5. That's the article that says, essentially, you attack one, you attack all. The United States is the only country to ever invoke that.
Globalist elites and neocons are beating the drums of war, preparing to sacrifice more...
There's the globalists.
...more of our sons and daughters to defend another nation's border, but not our own. Under President Trump...
No, if we're attacked, the army will defend us if we're attacked. That's what they're for. It's happened over and over and over again.
This would have never happened. For 4 years, our country had a real leader that led America and the entire world to peace through strength.
Wow, that's amazing that she respects Jimmy Carter so much.
But now we have a mentally incompetent, feckless, dementia-ridden piece of crap, to quote Kathy McCollum, who is still grieving the loss of her heroic son, Riley McCollum, one of the 13 killed in our chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan.
Wow. Piece of crap.
The President of the United States is totally compromised because every world leader...
Let's go back. I want to capture that.
One of the 13
I'm sure somebody
killed
has.
in our chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan.
No? We can't record? Hold on. I got to close something else. Let me close this and see if it'll let me record. Yes.
The President of the United States is totally compromised because every world leader has contents of Hunter Biden's laptop and much more from Afghanistan. Son Riley McCollum, one of the... Under President Trump, this would have never happened. For 4 years, our country had a real leader that led America and the entire world to peace through strength. But now we have a mentally incompetent, feckless, dementia-ridden piece of crap, to quote Kathy McCollum, who is still grieving the loss of her heroic son, Riley McCollum, one of the 13 killed in our chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. The President of the United States is totally compromised because every world leader has contents of Hunter Biden's laptop and much more to blackmail him. So it's no wonder America is weak. We do not have a president that can defend our country. We have a president that puts...
Because the leaders of the world are blackmailing President Trump. The leaders of the world, by the way, who are all united with... Sorry, not President Trump, President Biden. Who are all united with President Biden against Russia. Even though Putin has the contents of the laptop, apparently, and is going to blackmail President Biden with the contents of the laptop that the right claim they have. So the entire world has the contents of the laptop, but somehow they plan on using it to blackmail Biden with the images and the emails that everybody's already seen. That's the thinking there.
Puts America last because he is literally serving China, Russia, and the world.
Because they have the laptop, and we all do.
He is a globalist. He's for the global economy. He is for the World Economic Forum, for the interest of China, and he is for the World Economic Forum, for the
forum. Is she trying to say the World Economic Forum?
Interest of China, and for the interest of Russia, and for anyone, anywhere that has blackmail evidence on his sexually deviant, drug-addled, deadbeat dad, pathetic, sorry, embarrassing excuse.
So, but then sleeping with the managers of the CrossFit, that's not sexual deviancy? Outside of your marriage?
Of a son. Joe Biden has already broken his oath of office because all he cares about is protecting Hunter Biden. And
because he's a globalist with a space laser? Why isn't he using the space laser to take care of the Russian convoy outside of Kiev? Huh? Think about that. Why? Because that convoy has the Hunter Biden laptop. It all makes sense.
And he will not protect any of us. This is why I have introduced 4 articles of impeachment on Joe Biden. Now the Democrats are trying to claim victory, saying they have beaten COVID, just to try and win the midterm elections. But Americans all across the country will never forget the forced masking of our children.
Happened under Trump,
which is child abuse.
Happened under Trump's CDC.
And the unconstitutional vaccine mandates and all of the other horrible policies.
Well, some of those vaccine mandates were declared constitutional by the Supreme Court. That's the way the Constitution works. Sorry.
Of the COVID tyrants. Through the unholy union of the government and corporations, for the first time, Americans have suffered under...
Whoa. This is the first time that corporations and the government have been in bed together?
Corporate communism. Vaccines were forced on employees through their employer.
That's not communism.
Though the demand...
That's public safety. It's happened time and again in this country.
Hands of the Democrats, that's what they had to do.
Okay, but Trump.
They were forced to take an experimental vaccine just to pay the bill.
Every vaccine is experimental.
And put food on the table.
I mean, every drug is too. Now she's a Christian Scientist?
Something that should never happen in America. At the same time, the experts like Dr. Fauci and the CDC refuse to investigate the reported vaccine injuries and deaths on the VAERS system.
Because they're all nonsense. They are investigated, and they're found to be complete nonsense. The VAERS system is a wide open system. You can log in and report whatever you want. It has no bearing anymore on reality.
Or to even answer questions about why the NIH was funding gain-of-function research.
Why isn't the right wing investigating the VAERS claim? Why isn't MTG calling the people who report on the VAERS system and realizing, well, this number goes nowhere. Oh, there's no such person? Oh, okay, moving on.
At the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Dr. Fauci, the highest paid employee.
By the way, I am doing a react video to this. I am not endorsing anything that Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying. It's all nonsense. It's all lies. She has said a couple of things that are true, and I pointed those out.
In the federal government, and all of those adherents to the cruel and twisted COVID science will not investigate the origins of COVID-19.
Did Stephen Miller write this?
And all of those involved or the spread of COVID-19 that has killed millions Instead, they passed rules and policies that killed our parents in nursing homes
Parents.
and canceled every ounce of enjoyable life as we know it, from weddings to graduations, football games, and one of our most sacred, cherished freedoms, the ability to go to church. And while Americans were forced into isolation and all of the suffering that we endured, these elites...
Yeah, these elites that wouldn't investigate China on the origins of COVID, those elites
gathered at fancy parties and fundraisers. They forced restaurants to open for them, and their
That's Gavin Newsom. I agree with her on this one.
corporate donors were allowed to flourish and make higher profits than they've ever made before, as they were labeled essential. And the heroes of yesterday,
Well, I mean, food production is essential. Without it, we die. So,
frontline healthcare workers and truck drivers are now villainized. And while the Democrats and the propaganda media...
no, truck drivers are not villainized, just the idiots who surround. By the way, this is fantastic. There was a trucker freedom rally, a freedom convoy that made its way to Washington, D.C., right? This was going to happen because of the mask. And then the CDC's like, hey, you don't have to wear a mask anymore. But I don't know if I retweeted this or not. But they actually had a rally. They paid for a stage in Washington, D.C. today. And 4 people came to see it. 4 people were in the audience. Let's see. Freedom Rally DC. Let's see if I can find it. I put it on the Twitter there. I didn't. Here it is. This is... Okay. Ron Filipowski saw it. And here's the Freedom Rally. Look at the audience for the Freedom Rally.
You may not be open. A place that I used to raise...
There are 4 non-media members there. 3 of them are this guy's wife and kids.
My children and provide for my family. I had these government...
Those are the family. That's the family right there.
Government officials...
Oh, hold on. Let me get rid of that. There. That's the audience. That's the whole audience.
Coming to me, to my face, saying, you may not be open.
Like, who is even playing the guitars? There were more people on the stage at one point than there were people in the audience.
Huge red flag from the start. Didn't make sense. Started reading the Bible more, started getting the Constitution more.
Yeah, Bible, Constitution, all of it. Great. Good job there, buddy. So that was a huge success. Why? Because the people of America are sick of the tyranny. Okay, 4 people in America are sick. Okay, 2 people in America are sick of the tyranny, and 2 children had to go there because mom couldn't get a babysitter. But yeah.
Something's off.
Oh, shut up. Here.
Media labeled Antifa and...
Oh, they've already taken the video down. So we're not going to get to see the end of that. Oh, darn. All right, kids. That is the State of the Union. The very first broadcast here from the Stable Boy Studios. Again, thanks to producer JoJo for making this possible. Thanks to all of you for watching. And who knows, tomorrow, since this is set up now, I have more setting up to do and all kinds of stuff. But tomorrow, I'll try and do a broadcast. Since I see that this actually works. We have a fantastic internet connection here. We literally have dropped 0 frames since I began the broadcast. So if there's any buffering on your end, that's entirely your fault. Knock it off. Let's see if we can even get me back here. Where are we? Nope, there I am. So thank you very much, everyone, for watching. I thought it was a fantastic speech. There is one flaw in it with saying Iranian instead of Ukrainian. I'm sure that everybody on Fox is going nuts with that. Let's see. Was there a 7 o'clock show? Hold on. Let's find out. I'm not even ready to let you go yet. Although my leg is kind of hurting, so I should. Let's see. Oh, it's still on Hannity right there. They're still talking about the State of the Union. Let's just join live for a second.
Some people already fled, and we see a 40-mile convoy. They are out.
That's somehow Biden's fault.
And they are outmatched in terms of military might. It's listen, I believe in David and Goliath in the Bible. I really do. But this is a David and Goliath struggle, and I don't think they have enough military equipment to fight back. I hope you're right.
Well, what I started to say is...
he's never right.
Well, first of all, we should be getting them all the equipment we can. Congress...
Right. $1 billion worth. That's been approved.
Should be screaming about any effort by our State Department to slow down the flow of military equipment. Remember, a 40-mile convoy is a 40-mile target. It is an opportunity.
Right, but we cannot bomb that target or it starts World War III.
To chew up the Russians while they're sitting there.
Right, but we cannot attack Russia. The Ukrainian people are not NATO members. We get involved in this war directly, we start World War III. And Putin is just mental enough that he can start nuking things. We do not want nukes to be launched. By the way, this whole putting the nuclear bombs on high alert in Russia that Putin just did, and everyone's like, oh my God, he's put it on high alert. That's just double secret probation. The nuclear weaponry in Moscow and in Washington, D.C. is always on high alert. At any given time, the weaponry of either country can be scrambled in under 5 minutes. There's no such thing as super duper high alert.
In many cases, running out of gasoline, apparently, and literally sitting by the side of the road.
What did Laura Ingraham mention?
But in addition...
Oh, the Iranian thing? Yeah.
I think the...
let's see, Iranian. Let's see if Iranian is trending on Twitter. Iranian is... Newsmax mentioned it. Matt Gaetz mentioned it. It does not show as trending for me. But here we go. For me, trending. State of the Union, Kim Reynolds, Lakers, Luka, Iranian. Oh, it is. So it's number 5 trending is Iranian. Okay, Forbes mentioned it. Let's go back here. Forbes, NDTV, Newsmax, Matt Gaetz, Laura Ingraham, Clay Travis, Amy Takarian, Greg Kelly. By the way, we do stand with the Iranian people. Not the Iranian regime. We do not like them. But we do stand with the Iranian people. Just so you know. People are saying, oh yeah, we totally stand with Iranian people. Idiot. We do. We stand with people around the world. We stand with democracies. We have stood with the Iranian people many times.
The courage of the Ukrainians has to be matched by the equipment of all the rest of the world. And minor example, if they had Predators that were armed with Hellfires, they could be killing Russian tanks in that convoy every single hour, and they would just grind the convoy up. This is not a lost cause.
Okay, but...
And frankly, I think that it's important to say remember, Washington got down to 2,500 men when he finally won on Christmas night and the next day at Trenton. He's 2,500 men. If Zelensky has the guts to fight, then we ought to have the courage to get him the equipment to fight with. And I agree with you. I'd not heard until your show tonight that they had blocked the Poles from giving them MiG-29s. We ought to find out who is screwing this stuff up. And
I would have serious doubts about that report. The MiG-29s.
Fire them. And when the Congress ought to be ruthless in saying, not just fancy words, but insisting that they get a daily report on how much equipment is going from where to Ukraine, and sit on top of these bureaucrats and on top of these left-wingers who secretly, I think, have already...
the MiG-29s are a Russian plane, by the way.
...written off Ukraine, have already decided that Putin has won. Putin has not won. There's no reason to believe he will ever win. Ukraine is the second biggest country in Europe after Russia. It's a very hard country to occupy. They fought for independence for 2 years after World War II. And I just think we ought to take the attitude, if they've got the guts to fight, we've got the guts to get them the equipment.
Right. That's the attitude we've taken. So thanks for catching up with us.
I hope you're right, Mr. Speaker. You often are. And I will graciously and very happily concede you are correct, and I pray you are. But the world has to move yesterday, and they haven't been moving.
That's right.
Newt Gingrich, thank you.
No, they have been. We've sent 2 tranches, that's the drinking word, by the way, of equipment already to the Ukraine. That's just in September. Before that, remember, Trump sent them Javelin missiles, even though they decided they weren't going to announce an investigation of Hunter Biden, because they already had the laptop, and then they could blackmail Biden with everybody else. I'm blackmailing Biden right now. You should try it.
Thank you. All right, here with reaction, former counselor to the president, President Trump, that is, Kellyanne Conway, along with former White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus. Right.
I'll stay with you through Kellyanne. I haven't seen her in forever. Yeah, let's make her bigger. Let's see what I can do here. I'm sure I can do something. Give me a second. And there, I think I can do this. And give me a moment. And, oh, too much. I did too much. I always do too much. Here we go. Let's do this. Can we do this? Make them big? Come on. Oh, way too big. Scary. All right, let's have a fun fest. There's Reince and Kellyanne with her alternative facts. Enjoy.
We'll start with you. I like Newt's comments. I felt a kindergartner could have given the slogans, bumper stickers, and platitudes of Biden tonight, but
America first, America last. Yeah,
that's a separate issue. And I don't.
By the way, a kindergartner could not, especially since COVID, and none of the kindergartens can speak because the standards.
See that Biden is barely lifting a finger to put in real sanctions that would matter and getting the real military equipment that Ukraine needs. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, you know, the Javelin missiles and the Stingers and the helicopters.
Well, I thought at the beginning of the speech, I agree with Mark Levin, it was like two different speeches. They slapped the first part on, I delivered the Build Back Better speech afterwards. But I think the president should have spent more time talking about why what's happening in Ukraine is wrong. Why violating Ukraine's...
Russia invaded Ukraine. Russia is slaughtering Ukrainians, civilians, women and children. But Reince doesn't understand why that's wrong. So? Doesn't everyone, says Reince?
Sovereignty is wrong. Where NATO fits in, why freedom and
they're not in NATO.
Justice and the issues that surround the concept of Western democracies is right. And so
you want to know why the concept of justice is right. This is confusing to you.
He didn't do that. He paid.
No, he didn't do that because it's common sense, Rice. You're a goddamn American. He served in the White House, by the way. He was the leader of the GOP.
Papered over it. He went way too quick, and he missed the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room was the fact that you, President Biden, signed the executive order that killed the Keystone Pipeline.
Yeah, that wouldn't have an effect for years and was foreign oil. There would be no oil floating through the pipeline right now to somehow affect production of Russian oil, Reince. It's not the way it happens.
Put this idiot environmental czar John Kerry in place, who, while Putin was attacking Ukraine, was in Europe talking about the fact that he should be more concerned about the environment than the Ukrainian people. He ended the oil leases. One last comment.
No, the oil companies are cutting production on their own. There are 9,000 oil wells right now that could be being pumped in the United States that the oil companies just aren't pumping.
I know we're short on time, but you know...
Just go to Kellyanne. You're an idiot. You want to know why invading Ukraine is bad? You want to know why usurping another country's sovereignty is serenity? It's a combo word. It's a portmanteau.
It's in the speech that he looked at Kamala Harris and he said...
Kamala, but sure.
We've had our differences in the past, but you know, on the campaign trail. I've never heard a president relive the old campaign stories.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's all Trump does. His entire audience chants "lock her up."
That was talked about funding the police.
When I came down that escalator that day with your beautiful first lady.
He talked about made in America, and he talked about secure borders.
That's all election year conversion.
Crazy. Yeah, and he didn't watch the speech. Biden talked about made in America as well.
Garbage, like, you know, we got to fund the police. I'm like, really, Joe? Where you been for the last...
Yeah, he's been against defunding the police. That's where he's been since before the election. He's never been for defunding the police, ever. Not once. And by the way, that's not garbage, funding the police.
Last however many years, right? Kellyanne, we got a minute and a half, and it's all yours.
Well, Sean Reince, the guy who was...
Oh, goody.
Plagiarizing Neil Kinnock's speeches in the 1980s is now plagiarizing Donald
let's go back to 1980s.
Trump's entire agenda. And I think the theme from tonight is No Country for Old Men.
No. He's not plagiarizing Trump's agenda because Hannity said earlier in the broadcast that his whole speech was about America last. You gotta pick one here. Why are we having the analog buzzing? What the fuck, Fox News? Fix it. It's constant.
Because Biden left no one happy. You have a very reluctant Vice President Kamala Harris kind of doing the fake clap when he was talking about funding the police, and you have Rashida Tlaib and Cori Bush attacking him immediately for saying he's going to fund the police.
I didn't see that, but okay.
It was just a sort of a list of things that would try to bump up his poll numbers. Opioids, which he's done nothing about. Buy America, which he's been against. Energy.
No, he hasn't. That was his idea back in the... You can look it up. Hold on. Oh, we'll do that. Just, you know, in case I'm wrong. All right, hold on. Biden, 2009, Buy American. Let's see. Issue proposed. Buy America pledge. This is... Oh, it's just showing me recent results. Buy American... what was the Recovery Act? Recovery Act. Let's see if that pulls it up. Unfortunately, Google should enable you to take a button and just say, go by the words I typed, not the most recent results. Here we go. Joe Biden was instrumental. Joe Biden's 2009 stimulus package is a 4-minute listen. This is an interview with Biden. Let's see if it'll actually help us. Buy... B-U-Y. Where is the... so yeah, it's not in there. What if I do... Okay, Reinvestment Act, American Recovery. These news sources... no, this is 2009. Purchase vaccines, which I didn't even know about this. $2.3 billion Recovery Act funds to help care for children and prevent disease. Back in 2019, he was all about the vaccines. You're not seeing the full screen here. Sorry, guys. And then, yeah, it's right back to... okay, trust me on this. Buy American was his platform back in 2009. Back when Trump was a Democrat.
Of course, he has killed. You can draw a straight line from what he did on day one to the crisis we're in now. And
you cannot.
I have never seen a U.S. president, gentlemen, in 13 months, in the first year in office, really abandon 3 countries and their people in so many different ways. In Afghanistan, in Ukraine, and certainly...
Well, he said he was going to end our occupation of Afghanistan, and he did it. Trump said he was going to do it, and then didn't. Pushed it off for the next guy.
So many of Americans who are hurting. People are hurting out there. And
I don't know what the third country is. Did she say?
Kamala Harris today, I think that the comments she made were so unfortunate, giving a 4-year-old's tutorial on Russia and Ukraine. And let me say this about that. 2 words, Kim Reynolds. She did a remarkable job. Her accomplishments, her comportment, her philosophy, that's strong female leadership, and she's a conservative governor from the Midwest.
All right. She's terrible. Great. The governor of Iowa. Congratulations. All right. Well, she'll probably get reelected. It's Iowa. Guys, that's it for the... you know what, though? It's not. That's not it. Don't say that, Kevin. If Laura Ingram's on next, I gotta listen to Laura Ingram. Hold on.
Leanne, thank you.
Let's go ahead. Can I just jump ahead? Yes, I can.
Largest city of Kharkiv, where they've attacked one of the cities.
Hold on. I'll make it big again. I'll make it big. Let's see if I can do it without doing all of it. Display capture. What does that do? Nothing. How about this? Again, new... Okay, that's you guys. There you go. I like this better. Okay, what about this one? That is... I don't even know what that is. No? No? Okay, hold on. I'll make her bigger. Just listen for a second.
These military medical centers. Now, in other parts of the country, the shelling's been the most intense since the conflict began. We're going to have live reports on the ground throughout the hour, so stay with us for all of that. But first, in a desperate attempt to reset the narrative of what is obviously a failing administration, Joe Biden tonight delivered an address that sounded more like the State of the European Union at times.
6 days ago, Russia's Vladimir Putin sought to shake the very foundations of the free world, thinking he could make it bend to his menacing ways. But he badly miscalculated. He thought he could roll into Ukraine and the world would roll over. Instead, he met with a wall of strength he never anticipated or imagined.
He said mall of strength.
He met the Ukrainian people.
Well, Biden wants you to believe that this is kind of like Rocky IV, like he's Sly Stallone and Putin's Ivan Drago.
No. No. What? He's talking about the Ukrainian people. The Ukrainian people are Sly Stallone.
But I want you to know, we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. Putin's war in Ukraine will have left Russia weaker and the rest of the world stronger. We see the unity among leaders of nations, a more unified Europe, a more unified West. We see unity among the people who are gathering in cities and large crowds around the world.
Yeah? I wonder how she's going to attack this.
But Biden's more like Mr. Magoo, stumbling around without his glasses on, while Putin and Xi, at least working together, are trying to run circles around him.
What does that mean? What are you saying?
Now, after starting with an issue that just doesn't...
Wait, you just wanted to use a Mr. Magoo reference? How? What circles? What are we talking about?
Rank in the top 10 of voters.
I mean, an emergency session was called at the United Nations. That's the nations. An emergency session. This doesn't happen every day. This is extremely rare. It's only happened a few times in the history of the United Nations. Only a few times. The world is coming together to unite against Russia. That's just what Biden said. But he's Mr. Magoo. All right.
Concerns, as all of our hearts do break, of course, for the Ukrainian people.
Ah, she almost said the Iranian people. She almost said it. Whoa! By the way, she was one of the ones who tweeted out that that Biden said it. She almost said it. Oh, that would have been beautiful. Let's go back.
Putin and Xi, at least working together, are trying to run circles around him. Now, after starting with an issue that just doesn't rank in the top 10 of voters' concerns, as all of our hearts do break, of course, for the Ukrainian people.
Iranian.
Joe Biden tried his best to sweep aside the squad and mimic the populism of Donald Trump.
Most Americans and most of the country can now go mask-free. We can end the
Yeah, that's the CDC's.
shutdown of schools and businesses. The answer is not to defund the police.
Yeah.
It's to fund the police. When we use taxpayers' dollars to rebuild America, we're going to do it by buying America. The American Rescue Plan helped working people and left no one behind.
Yeah. All things that happened, by the way. He also borrowed things like insulin should be $35 that Trump said he accomplished and didn't. He also said we shouldn't be paying too much for medication that other countries are getting for less, which Trump said he fixed. He also said that the Congress and the United States of America should have the right to negotiate with drug companies when it came to Medicare and Medicaid, which Trump said he was gonna fix and never did. He just kind of forgot about that once he realized it was difficult.
Well, sounds like America first there, but this is all kabuki.
Yeah, it is America first, but Hannity said it was America last. So you really should have watched Hannity's monologue. It's a very important monologue. It is every night, by the way.
Theater. Because in Biden's world, the plutocrats always end up running the show, regardless of all the phony appeals to middle America. We're going to get into all of this now. Joining us now is House Minority Whip Steve Scalise, House Judiciary Committee Ranking Member Jim Jordan, and Molly Hemingway, Editor-in-Chief of The Federalist, Fox News contributor. Congressman Jordan, this speech was kind of a thematic train wreck, starting
Was it?
With the heartbreak and the horror in Ukraine.
Nah, I'm not sure she watched it.
And then an attempt to kind of reframe everything they've done over the past 13 months as almost a populist adventure in addressing middle Americans' concerns. Your response tonight?
Well, yeah, and it was also nonsensical.
Right. The one thing Trump did, the one thing Trump accomplished was his 2018 tax cut plan, which he claims was the biggest tax cut in American history. Wasn't even close. And that gave the rich even more money without really helping the middle class that much. We know that. The working people. By the way, rich people also work. A lot of them do.
He said he was going to secure the border. I mean, this is after...
I know some rich people, and they are hardworking as well. Like, insanely hardworking. Like, dude, spend some time with your kids.
A year of intentionally not securing the border, allowing 2 million illegals to cross, not finishing...
2 million illegals didn't cross.
Finishing the wall.
Those are 2 million apprehensions at the border. Many of those people are the same people that keep trying to get back in and keep getting booted back out because the Customs and Border Patrol is doing one hell of a job. Even though the wall is almost all done, it's only 3 weeks away from being completely finished and having zero effect.
Not keeping the Remain in Mexico policy. It made so many parts of it made no sense.
Okay, but the Remain in Mexico policy is in effect. Title 42 is in effect.
And my overall reaction was currently 63% of the country thinks our nation is on the wrong track.
Okay, that's lower than during the 2020 election when Trump was running the country. That's incredibly low, actually. That's not bad.
My guess is after that speech, that number is higher because so much of this made no sense. He said...
That you guessed wrong.
Oh, just lower cost and we'll fix inflation as if it's a magic wand. I mean, Shazam, it just happens. I mean, so it may...
Shazam does not use a wand.
So much of it made no sense to me, and I think that was probably the reaction of most of the American people.
Well, Congressman Scalise, President Biden also mentioned his solution to high gas prices. Watch.
High gas prices. Watch.
Tonight.
Who does her on Saturday Night Live? Is it, what's her name? Not Stephanie. Cecily Strong. I think Cecily Strong does her.
I can announce the United States has worked with 30 other countries to release...
Dinesh D'Souza used to do her, and I'm sorry I just put that image into your head.
60 million...
Oh, Kate McKinnon does her. You're right. You're absolutely right.
...barrels of oil from reserve.
Cicely does Judge Janine.
...around the world. America.
Okay, that's good. America and other countries are going to be releasing oil. Is it enough? Not even close. It's not even close to what we use in a day around the world, but it increases the supply. We're not going to stop the rest of the supply. So that adds to it. No, they're going to say that it's less than we use in one day. But that oil is all coming in from the other sources besides Russia. By the way, it's still coming in from Russia. That's why oil prices haven't skyrocketed. In the first day of the invasion, whoa, up above $100. Guess what? They've come back down. Let's see what they are now. For Brent crude, that's the crude coming out of Russia. It's going to be high because people are not going to be buying it. Oil barrel price today. Everyone's like, oh, it's going to be way. Let's see. Everything's going to spike. Okay, Market Insider. Well, just give me the price, Google. Okay, and that's 16 hours ago. Give me the price now. Okay, 7 hours ago. Here we go. That's Brent crude. That's the oil coming out of there. It's a special kind of crude oil to $104 a barrel. So we're just above $104 a barrel. And U.S. West Texas, that's ours. It's record profits for United States companies. WTI is at 103. So they haven't skyrocketed. They've gone up significantly, but because we haven't placed sanctions on the Russian energy, they haven't skyrocketed through the roof. People were talking $120, $150 a barrel. It hasn't happened. Anyway, they're going to come back and say that's not enough for a single day, but they're just looking at it as if that's the only oil that exists for that day. It's just supplemental to what's already coming in.
We'll lead that effort. releasing 30 million barrels of our own strategic petroleum reserve. And we stand ready to do more if necessary.
Congressman Scalise, America uses 20 million barrels a day, so other than depleting...
Right. But that oil is going to keep coming in from sources. See, this is supplemental.
This precious reserve that we have, what good will this do?
Well, I mean, the reserve is for times like this.
It won't do any good.
It'll do good. It's more than we use in an entire day. The entire country uses 20 million in a day. If we're going to go with what she's saying there, we'll just go with it. What the hell? 30 million is more than that, but the oil is going to keep coming in that already supplies that 20 million. You see? Am I making sense?
Laura, and if you look, there were a lot of delusional things he said. What Jim Jordan just said is accurate too, but on energy, it's not raiding the Strategic Petroleum Reserve that's going to move the needle. In fact,
we're not raiding it. It's strategic. We're being strategic. That's why it's called the Strategic Oil Reserve.
Last time he did it, prices went up because people know that's not...
No, prices went down. They went down. So 18 cents or so, depending, for a few days. But they did go down, and every dollar helps.
The solution. If you want to really undermine Putin, take away the...
No, the solution is green energy. The solution is sitting in the garage beyond this wall over here. The solution is an electric vehicle. The solution is my car sitting right out there. It runs on hydrogen. I don't use any gasoline. The solution is in Oakland because this car's going back and I have to drive to... Wait. Let's say Oakland. Oakland's over there. I'm getting another hydrogen car and getting a big rebate from the government to drive it. It's practically a free car. Why? Because A, I want to do good things for the planet, and B, I have no money. Thank God I live in California.
The money he's making.
Good morning. We did it, everybody. We stayed awake long enough for Andy to join us. Welcome to the third hour of the broadcast, Andy. Good morning to you. Andy's in Germany. Andy, by the way, has no heating oil anymore. Everything's been cut off. So prayers and thoughts and prayers for Andy. Andy, I assume that Germany's just on fire, but it's wood that you're burning. There's no more oil in Germany. Germany has no more energy. That's what we heard would happen. Thanks to Biden.
To go and invade Ukraine, open up American energy. It was working really well under President Trump.
Please say Keystone Pipeline. Please say Keystone Pipeline.
Trump. But it also undermined Putin's ability to have control over Europe. Biden gave him that leverage. And by the way, Putin is making $700 million a day.
Biden did not give any leverage to Putin. The Nord Stream 2 pipeline is not in effect. It was not in effect. No oil has flowed through that pipeline. No, well, because it's natural gas. No liquid natural gas has flowed through that pipeline. It hasn't been certified yet. By releasing the sanction on it, it now gives Biden an opportunity to cut it back. Oh, here you go. Here are billions coming to your economy. You know what? Not anymore. Not if you're going to invade. And Germany, by the way, did that. That's Andy's country.
Every day that he's selling oil to the...
Andy, can we send you a jacket or something?
United States and Europe. We can take...
So the right wing is saying like they get 70%, 80% of their energy from Russia. That's nonsense. They do get about half of their heating oil and gas from Russia. So that would have a big impact. Germany would be crippled. And that is why we haven't issued the sanctions yet. Now, they may in fact do that, but Germany has to be on board with that. It's their country. If the Russians begin to slaughter the civilians en masse in Ukraine, we might see that happening.
Take that leverage away by opening up American energy, not raiding the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, which would then run out and we would...
You've said that twice. It's not raiding.
Have no reserve left. Open up all the vast resources that we have, the abundant American resources. You will lower...
That's right. The sun, the wind, the hydro. These are all abundant. These are all renewable. That nature does the work for us. Thank you for supporting the Green New Deal.
gas prices at the pump, and you'll take billions of dollars out of Putin's pocket so he can't use it against the people of Ukraine.
Well, there was one moment I want to get.
Yep, well, that's shutting down the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. That's taking away the sanctions against the bank, the SWIFT banking, all of it has caused the ruble to collapse to the point where it's now 1 ruble is less than the price of a penny, the value, I should say, of a penny.
Molly, to this electric vehicle reference that
yes, let's talk about that, because I have experience with that.
Biden made tonight when he was talking about ways to lower the price of fuel for middle America.
Yes.
And he said, let's cut energy costs for families, an average of $500 a year.
Yes.
By combating climate change.
Yes.
They're not changing anything, are they, Molly? I mean, again,
No. It's government incentives for winterizing or summerizing your home so that you're not spending so much on heating oil or on air conditioning, etc. That's what that was, Laura.
Populist rhetoric aside, they are sticking with the Greeniac agenda come hell or high water.
I like that, Greeniac.
End of story, full stop.
Well, no, you took one sentence out of a paragraph and you're completely out of context, but okay.
It was a great example of just how unserious this president was tonight. He had a rare opportunity to have a reset of his agenda. It is widely known that Americans do not have confidence in him, and this is one of those few times that
many Americans do.
He could actually articulate a knowledge of how bad things are, address.
He did that. You haven't watched the speech.
Actual problems, and instead it was like.
Well, that's part of the electric vehicle thing. Are you going to answer the question at all, please, Molly? Can you address at least? I mean, you're on her show. Show her a little respect and get to electric vehicles.
He gave a speech for a different country where things are sort of okay and where the last year hasn't seen all these bad things happen as a result.
Right, but the question is about electric vehicles, Molly.
Result of Biden policies. Our energy situation is bad because Biden on day one decided.
Because of electric vehicles? Because the question was about electric vehicles.
To keep our energy from being produced. That's why Russia has leverage over Europe and the U.S.
Please say Keystone Pipeline.
In part. The border is insecure because Biden intentionally made it insecure. And
unsecure. The border does not worry about how it looks.
Rather than address these things, he just sort of tried to take credit for some things that were done in the previous administration and generally acted like all the problems that we all live with all the time aren't real.
The question was specifically about electric vehicles.
Well,
you're done? You're talking about the border being insecure? It's unsecure.
Congressman Jordan, the other issue...
Oh, thanks for pitching in there, Molly. I appreciate your 2 rubles worth.
That, of course, when he started with talking about Ukraine, we'll go to Scalise on this. When he started talking...
Why? You just asked Jim Jordan. Why did you change your mind? Is Jim Jordan gone? Did he vacate already and head to Newsmax? Hold on. I can't find him on Newsmax. Let's move on.
Talking about Ukraine, he had to give the impression...
Good night, Ann.
I think he felt like he had to, that the administration was anticipating...
By the way, now is not a good time to buy a car. I'm not saying ditch your gas vehicle. And I'm sorry gas prices are so high right now. But they were this high under Obama, too. And they were this higher under many, many presidents. This is not record gas prices. Gas is expensive. Adjusted for inflation, gas is not as expensive as it has been in the past.
All that was coming. The size of the convoys or what Putin had in mind. And
no. Biden not only anticipated this coming, but he released the intelligence. This is a different turn, by the way, for an American president. What we've seen here is Biden releasing the intelligence we had on Putin. In other words, the false flags, the genocide he was going to talk about, the Nazism, all of that intelligence was released before Putin came up with the nonsense. Well, actually, sorry, before he announced it publicly, so that the rest of the world knew that this was coming down the pipeline, and they had the ability to sanction that pipeline and unite against Putin. So they knew that this is all nonsense before it even happened.
I want to play this part of the speech for you. Watch.
Yeah, good. Let's watch.
We prepared extensively and carefully.
Yes.
We spent months building coalitions of other freedom-loving nations in Europe and the
I am a feeding-loving nation myself.
from America to the Asian and African continents.
Yeah.
To confront Putin. Like many of you, I spent countless hours unifying your European allies.
Well, Congressman, he's been finding that.
And Scalise is just shaking his head slowly. Just shaking it slowly. No, that's all true, but none of it happened.
Of course, China continues to fund what Russia's doing. Mexico is not really helping us. The UAE doesn't want to condemn Russia, and India doesn't want to condemn Russia. So,
okay. So how many countries are on the planet? About 200. And how many countries did you just mention? 5 out of the 200. So 2.5%. But yeah. Let's talk about India.
we got European help, but we have major...
Right, you did. The European countries are pretty much united against Russia. And the reason they're not united is because Russia is in Europe. Half of it, anyway. A fifth of it. So it's technically a European country and an Asian country at the same time. It moves across. It moves across. What's the right word? It spans 2 continents. It's a weird country that way. Not as weird as Australia. They get a whole continent for themselves? No. Australia is not a continent. It's just an island off of Asia. I've played Risk. I know how it works. Now let's see what the response is here.
World powers that are not wanting to get tangled up with Russia right now.
Switzerland, neutral Switzerland is coming out against Russia and taking action against Russia. Switzerland didn't take action against the Nazis.
Now.
Right, and what parallel universe is he living in?
That's a good question. It's the parallel to the one that you live in, which is not the real universe.
Keep in mind, Laura, this is the same president.
Andy just said something. I'm curious how, if Germans finally getting going on renewables, one idea was to shift to natural gas while doing so. But hey, combine democratic politics with corporate interests, yes. So the companies, Germany is shifting away, and Andy's going to know more about this than I do, but I try and pay attention. Germany is switching to 100% renewable energy. That's where they want to go. Liquid natural gas, compressed natural gas, cleaner than your coal standard. Cleaner than other standards. It's still dirty, but better than some of the other standards. So they're shifting to that while they're shifting to renewable energy. And that explains a lot of the dependence on Russia. However, even though they're getting a lot of LNG from Russia, they're also getting a lot of LNG from the Netherlands, a lot of LNG from other sources. They're not solely dependent on Russia for their energy.
Who said right when Afghanistan was about to fall, that Afghanistan wasn't going to fall, and within 48 hours...
Okay, yeah, that was bad. That was really bad, and Trump surrendered to the Taliban, etc., etc. But we're talking about Russia right now. She just gave you a softball. Hit that baby out of the park, Steve. And I'm sorry about the baseball reference. I know that brings back bad memories. Trump saw you get shot. He said so.
Taliban had control of the entire country. But if you look at what happened in Ukraine...
Yes, because that's what the question's about.
Months ago, the Ukraine government was asking America for help with surface-to-air missiles, for example. That was one of the things that they asked for months ago. Joe Biden said no. Imagine how different things would be today if Ukraine had those surface-to-air...
They have surface-to-air missiles.
All the carpet bombing you're seeing, cluster bombs, bombing of schools and daycare centers.
Yeah, they would need Patriot missiles to defend against that.
Centers and hospitals. They would be able, the people of Ukraine would be...
Yeah, Ukraine had the opportunity to join NATO, but Putin sabotaged that.
Be able to stop those planes and helicopters from coming in, but Joe Biden said no. And he's had a history of this. You know, when he was with Obama and they were asking for tank buses.
But he's approved $1 billion. And your guy, the leader of your party, said, I'll give you your Javelin missiles, but I need you to do me a favor, though. I want you to release the Trumper Biden laptop, the Hunter Trumper, and then a blackmail.
Missiles. Obama and Biden said no. It was President Trump who gave them those Javelin missiles. Well, you fast forward.
After he blackmailed them with it, yeah.
You go to what happened.
And that was good, by the way. They're using those Javelin missiles. Guess who also gave them Javelin missiles? Biden.
Just in the last year, Joe Biden didn't give them the arms that they needed. If he saw it coming, why didn't he help the people of Ukraine? They're trying to
he did
scramble to get things like Patriot or Stinger missiles in today, but there's a war going on in the country. It's kind of hard to get those arms in now. And by the way, you'd have to train the Ukraine army how to use those Stinger missiles. That's not working.
Yeah,
that's why the Javelins are so helpful. That's why more and more Javelins are being sent, have been sent under Biden, because, the soldiers love Javelin missiles. They're anti-tank missiles, but they pretty much shoot anything. And they're really easy to launch. The difference is the kickback. I watched a video about it or something. I read about it at some point a while ago. It was the Javelin missiles. I forget the exact specs on it, but basically it enables a single individual or just a couple of individuals to load it and fire it without a tremendous amount of kickback. You don't have to have it mounted on a vehicle. They're wonderful. And they're fantastic at piercing tanks. They're fantastic at getting to the tank, getting inside the tank, and then detonating. They are armor piercing. But it turns out that when you give a soldier a Javelin missile, they fire it at anything they can. Whether that be an armored truck or not, an infantry truck, a cave. They're just really, really cool. Unfortunately, they kill a lot of people. But those have been given by Trump and Biden, the same thing. Hi, Lindsay. To the Ukrainians.
Congressman Jordan, at the same time, Biden, I think, is trying. He's seeing what's happening.
He looks like he's about to cry.
With public opinion in China. So he's trying also to play tough guy with President Xi. Watch.
I've told Xi Jinping it's never been a good bet to bet against the American people.
Yeah.
We'll create good jobs for millions of Americans, modernizing roads, airports, ports, waterways, all across America. And we'll do it to withstand the devastating effects of climate change and promote environmental justice.
Congressman, I'm hearing him talk about...
Congressman, we all know, because President Trump said so, that climate change is a Chinese hoax. We know that, because Trump tweeted that.
But environmental justice in the same paragraph as he's talking about taking on President Xi of China? I mean, this man is completely removed from any sense of the way the world really works tonight.
No, exactly. And even if he wanted to do the right thing, as Molly said, even if he wanted to reset, even if he wanted to do the right energy policy, his party won't let him. The left controls the Democrat Party. I sat in a committee hearing a few months ago.
Democratic.
Ro Khanna, with the CEOs of all the major oil and gas companies, badgered every single witness and said, will you pledge today to decrease production? And I looked at him, I said, what do you want? $8 gasoline? And the truth is, Laura,
the truth is he didn't do that.
They do. They're committed to this crazy agenda. The good news is
that, yes, the oil executives do want $8 a gallon. That's their job, Jim. They need to make as much profit, not only to benefit themselves, and everybody's after their own self-interest, but to benefit their fiduciary responsibility is to give their stockholders as much profit as possible. That's why they exist. That's capitalism, buddy.
The American people see through it. They understand how crazy it is. That's why there's a 63% disapproval rating for Joe Biden. And my guess is that number is higher after his speech tonight. And I think a change is coming.
Didn't he just say that? Deja vu. Did we watch this part already? Didn't he just say that after the speech tonight, the approval ratings or disapproval ratings going to be higher? Or was that somebody else? Is that the... Oh, that's probably came out in their talking points. I thought it was Jim who said that already, though.
This midterm election.
Yeah, I think all of this fell flat, contrary to all the other networks saying that was an appeal to unity. This was like a post 9/11 moment. Molly, I have to get to something, though, that was...
Is it about electric vehicles? Because that's what you asked her before, and she completely ignored your question, Laura. So if you could, hammer down on the electric vehicles. I'd love to hear what she has to say. I happen to have a little bit of experience in that process. Hold on. Strange noises in the Stable Boy studios. I didn't know what was going on.
A really shocking appeal from Biden tonight. Watch.
To stop looking at COVID as a partisan dividing line. See it for what it is, a god-awful disease. Let's stop seeing each other as enemies and start seeing each other for who we are, fellow Americans.
Molly, how many times have you come on the Ingram angle over the past 2 years when Biden and his minions in the press have been vilifying Ron DeSantis, Kristi Noem, you pick your Republican Governor Abbott for endangering the lives of kids and putting science in the back seat. Now he wants a kumbaya moment after he destroyed kids' education, or his party did, for the better part of a year and a half?
Yeah, the policies that he has been putting in place have been so divisive. This is a guy who's currently leading efforts to kick people out of the military if they don't receive the vaccine, even if they've made religious exemptions or.
Well, there's a lot of vaccines that you can get kicked out of the military for not having. You have to have 17 different vaccines just to join the military. This is just another one of them. That's fine. Did she ask about the EVs? I'm looking for light switches now. I'm like totally tuned out.
Appealed for some way to.
Kev, you can speak faster than my impaired ass can text. Why? What am I supposed to? I have 2 phones and 1 charger. Not a fan. I don't know what you're saying. Okay, Allison.
Continue there.
I'm with you, Allison. Whatever you're saying, I'm 100% on board. I just want to hear what Molly has to say about electric vehicles.
Their service. This is a guy who said that just a few weeks ago he was talking about how he'd lost patience with people who weren't vaccinated. His rhetoric on this has been so divisive. His policies have been extremely harmful to the country, and now he wants to.
They have not. They've gotten us to the point where we don't have to wear masks anymore. Now, that being said, in California, you don't have to wear masks indoors anymore if you're vaccinated. In fact, even if you're unvaccinated, that's been released too, but it's recommended. I went to CVS yesterday to try and get some free COVID tests, thanks to the Biden administration, and nobody in there was unmasked except one guy who had a milkshake. So technically he was drinking, and you can't get COVID if you're drinking. That's not true, by the way. That's sarcasm. And then I went to Walmart, of all places. Walmart. And everybody was wearing a mask in Walmart. Everybody. LA's smart.
Act like that didn't happen, and it's infuriating to watch.
But there's also a point, I think, Congressman Scalise, that when you listen closely to Biden, I don't think they're quite willing to let COVID go completely. Watch.
I know some are talking about living with COVID-19.
Let COVID go completely? What does that even mean?
But tonight, I say...
Like, why would you let COVID go? COVID is still here.
That we never will just accept living with COVID-19. We'll continue to combat the virus as we do other diseases. And because this virus mutates and spreads, we have to stay on guard. We can't build a wall high enough to keep out a vaccine. The vaccine can stop the spread.
He should have said virus there. A virus.
Of these diseases.
Okay, we weren't quite sure what that meant. You can't keep a wall to keep out the vaccine, but it's...
Okay, it was virus. I mean, it's really, really simple. I'm sorry that you have comprehension issues and you can't figure simple matters like that out on your own, Laura, but he meant... People say it all the time. I've done it. I've said vaccine when I need virus. Everyone has said vaccine when they mean virus, and vice versa. I should have said vice versa. Damn it! Let's do that part again. Everyone has gotten the two mixes. Everyone has said vaccine for virus and virus for vaccine and vice versa.
It's late at night. Congressman Scalise, it sounds like, they want to keep that, card in their back pocket to be able to drop down on masks again or closing for the next...
What metaphor is that? What game do you play where you keep a card in your back pocket and then drop it down?
Variant, because the first shutdowns worked out so well for the country, or maybe just before
under Trump
for the midterm elections and have mail-in voting. I mean, that's the cynical way of looking at what he just said.
It is. That is correct.
Yeah, and Laura, this is all about government control. They want to control your life, but again,
by making you wear a mask.
He talked about unity.
Oh no, I'm completely controlled. My mouth and nose is covered slightly with a thin piece of glass. I'm under their complete control. I have no free will of my own.
And we've got to stop treating it as a political weapon. This is the president, Joe Biden, whose administration called parents.
That is correct. This is the president, Joe Biden. Steve Scalise, up until heretofore, has been unwilling to admit that Joe Biden was the lawfully elected president.
Domestic terrorists, if they dare go to a
that's not true. He was refused to admit that the election wasn't stolen.
School board meeting and challenge these idiots that were keeping their kids out of school, doing long-term damage to kids, going against the science that said kids should be in school, because he wanted to bow to the teachers' unions, and he changed the CDC guidance even because the teachers' union said they wanted it rewritten. So people aren't going to forget that. He thinks maybe just by saying all of these things tonight, people will forget what he did the last year. They're not going to forget because he keeps doing it. And if you listen, he kept trying to sell Build Back Better. The failed, even Democrats said enough of the crazy spending. He was trying to sell this idea of spending trillions more dollars and raising taxes. He talked about inflation, and then he talked about raising taxes to 50% on companies, which, by the way, means we're all going to pay more.
He said 15%, not 50, 15.
At the grocery store, at the shop.
Oh, this is just nonsense, Steve. He said 15%, Steve. And if you didn't hear it properly, that's on you. The speech is online. I watched it twice. I just wanted to make sure he said 15, not 50. That's published. This is not new. 15 has been around for a while. 50%. What a lying asshole. He knows that's not what Biden says. He should know, because it's his fucking job, that that's not part of the Biden agenda. What an idiot. Steve, get your shit together. You have people who work for you. One of them is not doing their job. Idiots.
Center, if we go buy things, thank God we're not going to be able to, that won't pass. But that's what Joe Biden still is trying to do. He doesn't get it.
No, he hasn't been trying to do that, and he's not still trying to do that. It's 15%, not 50.
And the voters get it, and they're going to have a say in November.
You get the sense...
yes, we will. I get the sense that that's about all I can take tonight. Let's see if she's just about... oh my God, this just keeps going and going and going. All right, that's enough for me. Guys, it's been a pleasure. Andy, thanks for joining us for the last 5 minutes of the broadcast. It was nice to see you. Everybody else, Allison at Random, Eve, Marcy, Stephanie, everybody else. Babe was here for a while. Time to Truth, everybody, I can't remember everybody. All right, I'm about done, folks. That's coming up on 4 hours of broadcast. You guys have a great night. Enjoy your union, whatever it may be. I hope it's in a happy state. Be good to yourselves, be good to others, and most importantly, be good to me.